Assalamu alaikum, guys. Welcome to episode 53 of Freshly Grounded. Unfortunately, Abdul Samad is not here today. Sam, he is big man. Sam, 6'6", is unfortunately away in Edinburgh doing his thing with Menspire. So you're left with your boy Big Faze. But alhamdulillah, we are joined by a guest, Yahya Raaby today. Yahya Raaby. So I don't know where to start with this. All right, so Yahya is a teacher. He teaches Arabic at Badr Institute or Badr Academy, and I've actually asked him to leave the room while I do this introduction because I don't want to praise him so much to his face, but subhanAllah, he's a beautiful individual who is very, very inspiring, a young brother who is who takes the teaching seriously, the Qur'an. So this episode is dedicated to learning, considering Ramadan is coming up, which is the month of the Qur'an. This episode is literally dedicated to the Qur'an. So we're talking about the camera's gone. What was I just all right, so sorry guys, there was an issue with our cameras because we've been recording for like the last 2 hours or so all of our batteries are pretty much dead, but it's okay, right? So as I was saying, so this episode is with Yahya. He teaches Quran and Arabic, and also this episode, because we've got Ramadan coming up, is dedicated to the Quran. So the importance of memorizing the Quran, the importance of learning to read it, how to read it, how to memorize it, the dangers of reading the Quran wrong or not understanding it, and the importance of learning the Arabic language. So this is everything that we discuss in this episode. And listen to I was going to play you guys Yahya's recitation. I was going to say, if you want to listen to Yahya's recitation, go onto YouTube and search Team Akhirah. Some of his recitations up on there, and I think they also might be on Journey with the Quran, but this is his beautiful recitation I want to play before we go to
وجنود إبليس أجمعون قالوا وهم فيها يختصمون تالله إن كنا لفي ضلال مبين.
That's on my Instagram, but yeah, you can find his recitations online. Search Team Akhirah on YouTube. That's TEAM space AKHIRA. And yeah, so this episode is Yahya Raaby. I loved it. You guys will inshallah love it. It might sound like that it is amazing. Like honestly, I love this episode. Like it is. I don't know what else to say essentially. So without any further ado, this episode is brought to you by 59. That's 50_NINE on Instagram. 59 coffee, juice and snack cafe in St Albans. Head over to 59 for some freshly grounded coffee, some fresh snacks, some fresh juice. Everything tastes amazing. It is my favorite cafe, and I don't just say that, it genuinely is. One of the beautiful things I actually love about 59 is that there's no music playing, so you can actually just like sit with your thoughts and get some work done. So that's in 59 Stanhope Road in St Albans. If you head over there and quote Freshly Grounded, you get £1 off your entire order. Also brought to you by Izaha, IZAHA.com, Izaha.com, your one-stop shop for Arabic hats, caps, t-shirts, jumpers. Head over to Izaha.com, type in Freshly Grounded, you get 20% off. And lastly, by Flavor, that's FLAVR, flavor.co, FLAVR.co, your one-stop shop for branding, marketing, social media content creation, iPhone app, Android app design. And without any further ado, guys, this is episode 53 of Freshly Grounded. Let's get into it.
And welcome to Freshly Grounded, the brand new podcast by best friends Faisal and Sam.
Huh?
I said welcome to Freshly Grounded,
No, after that bit.
the brand new podcast
And after that bit?
by best friends Faisal and Sam.
Really?
And we're live. Assalamu alaikum, Yahya Raaby.
Salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Is it so? Yahya, I've seen Yahya Raaby and I've seen Yahya Raaby. What's the difference?
They're the same.
The same.
They're the same. Raaby is my grandfather's name. And what do you call it? Do you want my full name?
Yeah. Let's hear it.
So Yahya, my father is Abdul Qadir, grandfather is Ahmed, and then you have Raaby. So Raaby is like, it has a meaning in Arabic, and it has a meaning in Somali. Okay, and the meaning, subhanallah, are similar. So the meaning in Arabic you actually have the one of the forms of the word in the Qur'an. So Allah Azza wa Jalla says, وَمَا آتَيْتُم مِّن رِبَا لِيَرْبُوَ فِي أَمْوَالِ النَّاسِ. Whatever you give from riba. So what does riba mean? Riba means extra, ziyada. Okay? لِيَرْبُوَ, to increase. So Rabi comes from like increasing, what do you call it? Extra or multiplying. And then in Arabic, in Somali, it means the same thing. It means like multiplying and making something double.
And what does Yahya mean?
So Yahya comes from life. Haya.
Okay.
So Yahya lives. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. So and Rabi also comes from the word Rabia.
Okay.
And Rabia means in Arabic somewhere that's quite high. Okay. So it suits me because I'm a tall person.
You are a tall person. It makes sense. Do you know what my name means? Faisal.
Faisal, yes.
Oh, what does it mean?
Faisal means the one who distinguishes.
Yeah, so I have this thing that I do. Hold on, give me 2 seconds here because, Red, I know this is me being really picky, but when you muted the third mic on the software, I noticed that the third mic is the one that Yahya is connected to. Yeah, but maybe.
Fourth.
Yeah, the fourth. Sorry.
Wow.
Is that the one you muted? Because you muted on the third. But I mean, I know you could be right, but I just thought I'd double check.
I muted the second one over here. And that's connected to the third one.
Oh, I thought you muted the third one, which is connected to the fourth one.
No, so it's 2, 3, 4.
Yeah.
And then that's 2, 3, 4.
And you muted the middle one. Your one's definitely muted, basically.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I'll double check it now.
No, you're probably right. If is Yahya's going up and down, basically.
So yeah,
He's number 4, yeah, and it's going up, and I'm number 2. Alright, fine.
Right.
Yeah. So
these are the technical difficulties that happen. I'm so
Conscious of it.
Red probably hates me because we've had a few episodes, not when Red's been here, but we've had a few episodes generally where obviously as a nature podcast, this is our 53rd episode, I believe. So you can imagine there's been times where sometimes there's been an issue with audio and stuff, and you've only got one shot at doing like a 2-hour thing, right? So
No,
I
double checked it to make sure beforehand anyway. But
okay. So I'm like really paranoid about this kind of stuff. Make sure, we can't reshoot the podcast, right? Do you know what I mean? So alhamdulillah, Jazakallah khairan. Red is very patient with me. Very patient with me.
Allah.
So as you were saying, Faisal means like to distinguish, right, and stuff. And there's like a running joke in like my family, my friends, in that I'm like the most indecisive person like you ever meet. I'll go to like a chicken shop and then I'll be like, oh, can I get quarter chicken and chips? And I'm like, no, actually half chicken and rice. And then they'll be like, okay, cool, put in half chicken and rice. Actually, no, quarter chicken and rice. Like this is the extent. Alhamdulillah, I've got better because I've had advice from people who are decisive, and I've also learned that like being a practicing Muslim helps because sometimes, as a practicing Muslim, you don't have to think for yourself. You just choose the decision that's better Islamically. Do you know what I mean? So it makes it easy. So you don't even have to decide.
Al-Azima al-Rushd. You know the dua that the Messenger alayhi salatu salam used to make. He used to ask Allah Azza wa Jal, Al-Azimata al-Rushd.
What's that?
To be determined and decisive upon guidance.
Oh, subhanAllah.
Yeah.
Ameen.
Yeah, so that's it's a dua that you should ask Allah Azza wa Jal. And the beautiful thing, like you just said, it is that the mu'min, he puts everything in the hands of Allah Azza wa Jal. The believer, all his decisions are in the hands of Allah Azza wa Jal, meaning that Allah Azza wa Jal, he chooses everything for him. Yeah. Right? And there's a saying that the Arabs they say وَالْخِيرَةُ فِيمَا اخْتَارَهُ اللَّهُ. The khair is in what Allah Azza wa Jal has chosen. Even you may think, you may perceive it to be something that it's bad or may not be good for you. But because Allah Azza wa Jal chose it for you, it's definitely good for you in the long run. Imagine the mother of Musa alayhi salam. She was told, Allah says, أوحينا إلى موسى أن أرضعيه. Before that, Allah Azza wa Jalla says to Musa, ألقيه في البحر. Throw him in the river, in the water. Right? So, and then Allah Azza wa Jalla says, ولا تخافي ولا تحزني. He said, and don't be afraid and don't feel grief. Okay, so what was Moses' mother afraid of? She was afraid of that Fir'aun will take her son in and kill her son, because he was born in the year that he was butchering the males that were born, right? And she was afraid of losing her son. That's all she's afraid of, right? And then Allah Azza wa Jalla, He tells her, do that. Throw him in the water and leave it in the hands of Allah Azza wa Jalla, right? And Allah Azza wa Jalla says, وَعَسَىٰ أَن تَكَرُوا شَيْئًا وَهُوَ خَيْرٌ لَكُمْ, right? And you may dislike something, but it is good for you, right? You don't know what's good for you, but Allah knows. At the end of the verse, Allah says, وَاللَّهُ يَعْلَمُ وَأَنْتُمْ لَا تَعْلَمُونَ. And Allah Azza wa Jalla knows, and you don't know. Look at Musa alayhi salam. His mother, what she's afraid of, that he would be taken by Fir'aun. Rather, Allah Azza wa Jalla took him straight to the house of Fir'aun. The wife of Fir'aun, she finds him and she falls in love with him. And then she asks to raise him. Imagine he's raised in the house of the enemy, who his mother was afraid of.
Who had made it a thing to kill baby boys.
He was raised in his house, right under his eye. And then he grew up there, and then he became a messenger. And that's exactly who he was afraid of, because he saw a dream that a person, a boy, young man will come from Bani Israel, that he would become a messenger and that he would destroy his kingdom.
And this is why he was butchering.
That's why he was butchering the boys. Okay? And Allah Azza wa Jalla, his decree that he made it so that he was gone. And then on top of that, she was afraid of losing her son, right? She was afraid of losing her son. That her son would not be away from her, far from her. But rather, Allah Azza wa Jalla, وَحَرَّمْنَا عَلَيْهِ الْمَرَاضِعَ, Allah says, we prevented from him all those nurses who would breastfeed him. No woman he would accept to breastfeed him. And then eventually, his sister, she heard about this. So she said, shall I tell you about a woman that will breastfeed him and he will accept her? And then, وَرَدَدْنَاهُ, Allah says, we returned him to his mother. And she comes and she sees her son every day. And on top of that, she's getting paid for it. Imagine now you're looking after your child and you're getting paid for it as well. Allah says, وَلَا تَخَافِي وَلَا تَحْزَنِي. Don't be sad and don't grieve.
You have to trust in Allah's plan.
Everything is in the hands of Allah.
Even when this like, when you reflect on that, it brings so, it makes you like, you feel so like, why do I even get frustrated with things? Because I know, like, even how much worse can it get? Like, the one thing that you did not want to happen was for your baby to go to the house of the enemy who is literally killing baby boys, and that is literally the exact thing that had happened. And it was all Allah's plan all along, and it was for the better in the long run.
Yeah.
That's literally, in her eyes at that point, could have been the worst thing that could have happened. But alhamdulillah, and she got to see her son every day, nurse him and get paid for it. And subhanallah, that really makes our issue seem so minor. I think, like, you know, like something will happen in life and I'll be like, oh, subhanallah, like, you know, for a second you become ungrateful, you become frustrated, and you think, so why did I even become like that? I should have trusted Allah all along. Has Allah let me down yet? No.
Exactly.
Do you know what I mean? Subhanallah, it's so true. So I tell you the other thing that teaches that even the most tyrannic of men and the ones who are so determined to do something, their wives have a special. Their wives can convince them to do anything. Subhanallah.
You know, there's a when he said that, something came to my mind. That there's a figure in history, right? In Islamic history, and this person, when you read his biography, you would be astonished at the stuff. You think he's definitely a myth. He definitely didn't exist. This man, his name was. And many people, they probably heard me talking about him, because when I read about him,
talking about him.
It's not only talking about him, he's a bad person.
Oh, subhanallah.
He's people, for example, imagine the historians and the Islamic scholars, they differing over whether is he a Muslim, is he not Muslim, was he a sinner. But when you look at his biography, you'll be shocked. It's very hard to tell what he really was, his reality. His name was Al-Hajjaj ibn Yusuf al-Thaqafi. Okay, he lived in time of the Tabi'een, so the generation after the Sahaba. And this man, Al-Hajjaj, he was born in Ta'if, so that's city near Mecca, and he started his life off as a Qur'an teacher. Okay, so he memorized the Qur'an, he knew inside out, and he loved the Qur'an, he taught the Qur'an. He started his life like that. So Al-Hajjaj, after he was teaching the Qur'an, there was two governments at the time, Islamic governments. There was a Khilafah that was led by Abdullah ibn Zubair, the Sahabi, radiallahu anhu, and that was based in Mecca, Medina, Egypt, Iraq. He ruled all those lands. And then there was the Umayyad dynasty. Okay, the Umayyads, who were Bani Umayyah, who were based in Damascus, Syria. Okay, so they ruled. So they wanted to take over. They wanted to be the ultimate leaders, really. And the leader at the time was Abdul Malik and Marwan. Okay, so what happened was they were constantly, fighting the Zubayris and the Umayyads. So one time, it is said that Abdullah ibn Zubayr, he asked all those who live in Hijaz, so that's Mecca, Medina, Taif, all that area, all the lands he ruled, they had to fight alongside against the Umayyads. So Hajjaj, he went out and he fought alongside, right, Abdullah ibn Zubayr. And what happened was he discovered that he was actually really good at it. He was really good at fighting, so, and he found that he was talented. Talent he didn't know about. So then he became very ambitious. He said, being Qur'an teacher is not for me. I need to be higher, okay? And to have a position. So and he saw that Abdullah ibn Zubayr, he's in Mecca. Abdullah ibn Zubayr was very pious. He didn't care about the luxurious lifestyle. He constantly would fast every other day. He would constantly be praying. He didn't look very rich or anything. So he said, I don't have any place here. Abdullah ibn Zubayr won't give me any position that I could be someone. So he went to Syria, Damascus, and he joined the police. And then eventually he took over the police. He became the leader of the police because he impressed Abdul Malik ibn Marwan. And then Abdul Malik ibn Marwan, he made him close to him because he saw how decisive he was and how serious he was. And Hajjaj had a very hot temper and many funny stories of his temper, subhanAllah. And people were scared of him because of how he was. He wasn't, and when they describe him, the historians, they describe him as someone who wasn't very good looking. He's very short, but he was eloquent in the Arabic language. And he's counted as one of the 4 Arabs that never ever made a mistake speaking. So eloquent. And when you read his khutbahs and his sermons, you think, wow, he's so well spoken, and the way he would express himself. So he became close to Abdul Malik ibn Marwan, and then eventually Abdul Malik ibn Marwan, he sent him to Iraq, okay, to be the governor of Iraq. So what they did was horrible. They killed the brother of Abdullah ibn Zubayr, Mus'ab, and then he sent the head of Mus'ab to Abdul Malik ibn Marwan, and then he took over Iraq, and he went to Kufa specifically, the city called Kufa. And the people of Iraq were known at the time as educated people. They were scholars there and so on. So because they were so educated, they were known to not accept any leader.
Okay.
So they would rebel, really. Okay, so Al-Hajjaj, he wanted to discipline them. So he went to Kufa and he entered the masjid. It's a Friday, as I said. So when he entered the masjid, he came in and he was like this. His face is covered.
Oh, okay.
Okay, only his eyes could be seen.
So you couldn't tell who it was?
Yeah, so he had all his guards and everything, and he walked in. And all the people of Kufa, and they're sitting in the masjid, and they're waiting for their new leader or the new governor to walk in. So he walks in, and then what happens is that obviously there's a letter from the Khalifa, Abdul Malik ibn Marwan. So that's read out first before he says anything. So the guard, he reads out the letter, and obviously the letter starts with salam. So assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. And none of them responded in the masjid. So Hajjaj became furious. He got angry. He said, Ayusallimu alaykum Amirul Mu'mineen wa la turuddun? He said, does Amirul Mu'mineen, does he greet you and you don't respond? And then he said, لو أدبنكم غير هذا الأدب. He said, I will discipline you other than this discipline. And then he told the guard, repeat from the start, and he repeat the salam. And they went, wa alaykum as-salam wa rahmatullah. They were scared now. So after he read the letter, then Hajjaj started speaking. And then he took off his cover from his face and he started speaking. He started khutbah. And then he said, amongst the things he said was, Ya Ahla Kufa. He said, this is the famous line that everyone repeats, Inni ara ru'usan qad ayna'at wa qad hana qitafuha wa wallahi inni nasahibuha. He said, oh people of Kufa, I see heads that have become ripe. And he said, وَقَدْ حَانَ قِطَافُهَا, and the time of plucking has come. And wallahi, I'm going to be the one who's going to pluck them. Meaning that he's going to cut off their heads. And then the way he says it in Arabic is extraordinary. And then he said, إِنَّ الْمُلُوكَ, he said, verily the kings, okay, they have 2 swords, sayfain. Sayfu niqmah wa sayfu rahmah. Okay, a sword of punishment and a sword of mercy, meaning that they punish those who transgress and they defend their people. Okay, but he said, verily, I had 2 swords, but one of the swords on the way to Kufa, I lost it, which was the mercy one, and I only have the sword of punishment.
Oh, wow.
As he said.
Wow.
And then what he amongst the things he did was, Okay, there's many stories that I know that are quite funny. Some of them I don't know how true they are, to be honest. It's said that Hajjaj, he was leading Salah, and obviously the people are praying behind him are tabi'een, scholars, but because he's the governor, he would lead the Salah. And that's from fiqh's perspective, the Amir, no one should precede him in Salah unless he gives someone permission to lead. If the leader, he should lead the prayer. So he would lead the prayer, and then it's said that he got stuck on a verse and he didn't know what came next. So, and no one responded. Someone were thinking, yes, he's stuck, we got, now that's our opportunity, let him be stuck. And some of them were just too scared apparently. So what happened was, he used Qur'an to speak to them in Salah. He said to them, he said to them, "Rudduha alay." This is a verse in Surah Sad. That Allah Azza wa Jalla says, repeat it to me. Okay? So he says, repeat it to me and tell me the verse he's trying to say. So no one responded. So what does he do? He gets annoyed and he says, كَأَنَّهُمْ خُشُبٌ مُسَنَّدَةٌ. Allah says in the Qur'an, as if they are trees that are rooted into the ground, not speaking, not benefiting. Right? Just standing there, not doing anything he means. And he just went, Allahu Akbar. He went to ruku'. And he got off for the second rak'ah and he's still stuck, right? So what does he do this time? Now he gets really angry. So no one tells him. So then he uses Qur'an to threaten them. So he says, he uses the verse of Fir'aun, what Fir'aun said. That the Fir'aun is threatening Bani Israel. Or he's threatening the sorcerers that became Muslim. He says, لَأُقَطِّعَنَّ أَيْدِيَكُمْ وَأَرْجُلَكُمْ مِنْ خِلَافٍ وَلَأُصَلِّبَنَّكُمْ أَجْمَعِينَ. He said, I'm going to cut your hands, I'm going to cut your legs, I'm going to crucify you all.
Wow.
So it's said that some of them fled from the Salah and some of them stayed behind because Hajjaj, he never ever made a promise except that he fulfilled it.
Oh, really?
He never ever made a promise except that he fulfilled it. So he finished Salah and he turned around, no one there.
No way.
And there's also another funny, this one, it really had me laughing because it said he went out sailing, or they went out on a journey on a ship with some of his people, his guards, and nobody really likes him. They despise him, but they're only scared of him. That's the only reason they go with him. So when they went out, Al-Hajjaj, a storm came, and what happened was Hajjaj, he fell off into the water, and he couldn't swim. He said he didn't know how to swim. So they rushed to save him, and he'd be shocked. They hated him. Why would they save him, right? So, and he knew they hated him too. So he asked them. He was shocked. He said, "Why do you save me? You all hate me." So they said, we had the Messenger alayhi salatu salam, he said that the one who drowns in the water is a martyr, and we didn't want you to be a martyr.
That's right, subhanallah.
That's how much they hated him.
So was he a righteous man, or?
You know, that's the thing.
It's hard to tell.
It's hard to tell,
okay.
Because he killed some Sahaba. He killed Abdullah ibn Zubayr radiallahu
anhu.
And he hung him up in Mecca for his mother, whose mother is Asma bint Abi Bakr, the daughter of Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu. And she was old at that time. His mother's going around, she could see him. So it was very hard to tell. But one of the things that Umar ibn Abdul Aziz, who was one of the Khulafa, and he is considered like the 5th Khalifa al-Rashida after Ali radiallahu anhu. Umar ibn Abdul Aziz, he has a statement which he says, right, I envy Hajjaj in 2 things. And the people were like, you envy Hajjaj? Why on earth would you envy Hajjaj? He was a terrible person, he was a tyrant, right? That's what they said. That's what he said to him. He said, I envy him in 2 things. The first thing is that the way he treated the people of the Qur'an. He really honored the people of the Qur'an. He would, because he knew the status of the Qur'an, and the position it holds, so he would honor them, the people of the Qur'an. And the second thing is what he said before he died. Hajjaj, when he died of stomach cancer, it said, and he actually believed that Allah Azza wa Jalla was punishing him for what he did to the Tabi'i, the great Imam Sa'id bin Jubair. And he used to see nightmares of him because he killed him in a very bad way. And he was a great scholar, Sa'id bin Jubair. So he got stomach cancer and he died of that. So one night he was on his bed and all his people around him, and he said, take me to my majlis, my gathering where I sit and all that stuff. And they said, yeah, I mean, this is not time for the majlis. This is time for you to rest. He said, I don't want people saying that Hajjaj died on his bed. That's what he said. Oh. So they took him to his majlis and he sat there. And then before he got there, he made dua. He raised his hands to Allah. He said, Allahumma ghafirli fa inna an-nasa za'amu annaka la taf'al. He said, oh Allah, forgive me, for verily the people, they have claimed that you won't do so. Right? So Umar ibn Abdul Aziz, he said that statement that he said before he died, he said, I envy him for that. because later on they took him to his majlis, and then he said, the one who has the best voice amongst you, let him read some Qur'an for us. So one of them started reciting Qur'an, and whilst he was reciting Qur'an, he passed away. Right? So even though it's very hard to tell what kind of person he was, but the point is that perhaps because of the relationship he had with the Qur'an, that Allah Azza wa Jalla, He allowed him to say that. And that's what Umar ibn Abdul Aziz was mentioning.
Oh, okay.
Because of the relationship he had with the Qur'an, even though he was such a bad person, he did terrible things. But because of that relationship he had with the Qur'an, and that's the important point here, that this man, he did awful things and he killed Sahaba, he killed scholars or whatever, but that relationship with the Qur'an he preserved and he observed, and that perhaps allowed him to be someone who was allowed to say that statement before his death. Ajib. Yeah.
It's good that it's good that you spoke about the relationship with the Qur'an, because that's a topic that I definitely wanted to leeway into with you. So you've perfectly set that you've set that up for me now. So it'd be silly of me not to. So yeah, the relationship with the Qur'an. So people who do know you or who speak about you, or when we have conversations in the community, kind of you promote. Let me know if I'm wrong in saying anything that I'm saying, but you promote the idea of people learning the Qur'an, both to read it, but to also learn to understand it, the Arabic language in general, and the Arabic language, the Arabic that's in the Qur'an, so that people can basically understand the Qur'an. Why is it that it comes across almost that this has become your mission to help people understand the Qur'an and to be able to speak and understand the Arabic language? Am I right in saying that is one of your missions? And if so, why is it so important to you?
SubhanAllah. That is quite accurate, I would say. Yani, the reason why is not me emphasizing it, but Allah Azza wa Jalla emphasizes that in the Qur'an himself. Allah Jalla wa Ala, He tells us that the Qur'an, first of all, which is one of the greatest blessings that Allah Azza wa Jalla has bestowed upon us, a mercy from Allah Azza wa Jalla. And the one who understands the Qur'an sarahatan, honestly, he would be successful, I should say, in this world and hereafter. And Allah Azza wa Jalla tells in the Qur'an that the purpose of the Qur'an is that once we read it, that we understand it and we implement it, right? So you won't be able to implement the Qur'an properly without understanding it, obviously.
Right.
And in order to understand the Qur'an, you require Arabic, because that's the language of the Qur'an. Inna anzalnahu Qur'an Arabiyyan la'allakum ta'aqilun, Allah Azza wa Jalla says. Verily, we have revealed it as the Arabic Qur'an, so that you may understand and have intellect or comprehend, Allah says.
Right.
Al-aql, Allah Azza wa Jalla, He mentions the mind after that. And the heart. Allah, in many places He says, Inna fi dhalika la ayatin li ulil albab. Verily, in that are signs for ulil albab. Kitaban anzalnahu ilayka mubarakun liyadabbaru ayatihi wa liyatadhakkara ulul albab. A book that we have revealed to Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, which is blessed, so that they may reflect upon it, understand it, ponder upon it, comprehend it, and so that those who have intellect, understanding, can remember and learn. And ulul albab, al-lub, it is referred to the heart and the mind together, so that you must understand the Qur'an with the heart and the mind. And that's the important part. It's not only that you're learning a language, but it's rather that you're also cleansing your heart. Because learning a language, anyone can do that. But that language, the Arabic language, it's not like any other language, because it is religion. It is deen. Umar radiyallahu anhu, Umar ibn Khattab, he says, تعلموا العربية فإن العربية من الدين. He says, أثر, that learn the Arabic language, because verily Arabic is part of the religion. It is the religion. To the extent that some of the ulama, they would say that learning Arabic, it's obligatory upon every single Muslim. And if he doesn't learn Arabic, then some of them, they would consider he was a sinner. And obviously that's, they differ on that. Some of them, they talk about what's the extent that the person must learn. Imam Shafi'i and the likes of him, they say that the extent that the person must learn is that what he requires to be a Muslim, meaning that what he requires to pray Salah, etc. But some of them would say that no, he must understand the Qur'an, he must understand Sunnah, because that's wajib, that's obligatory, right? So, and understand the Qur'an and Sunnah requires Arabic. So whatever you require to get, whatever means you require in order to get to the wajib, that becomes wajib too. And Imam Shafi'i has a beautiful statement. He says, "Man hafidha al-Qur'an azumat hurmatuh." The one who memorizes the Qur'an, his hurma, him being someone who is haram, meaning someone who's kind of sacred, I would say, it becomes greater. in the sight of Allah Azza wa Jal, because the Messenger alayhi salatu wasalam, he says in the hadith, inna min ijlalillahi ikram dhi shaybati al-muslim wa ikram hamil al-Qur'an. He said from the glorifying Allah Azza wa Jal, it is honoring ikrama the shaybati al-muslim, the person who has become Muslim, who's Muslim and he's old. The person has grey hair in Islam. And hamil al-Qur'an, the carrier of the Qur'an, right? So that person, he's become someone who's honored by the people, and honoring his part of glorifying Allah Azza wa Jal. And he says, وَمَنْ تَعَلَّمَ الْعَرَبِيَّةَ رَقَّ طَبْعُهُ, he says. And the one who learns Arabic, his character becomes soft. Okay, Arabic, it molds you, it changes you. And that's what, and not only Arabic, because Imam Shafi'i is not only referring to Arabic here, but Arabic is a package. The Qur'an is the greatest source of Arabic. And the Arabic language, sarahatan, honestly, it would have never been preserved like it is today. Because all the other languages we have now, they've changed over time. But the Arabic language, from the time of the Messenger ﷺ, 1400 years ago, till now, we would be able to understand exactly what they said then. Now. And probably we would speak the same way as they spoke then, right? There's no other language like that. Maybe from 100 years ago, English was completely different. And we would not understand the English people who
even
spoke.
5 years ago, you know, like with the amount of slang and stuff that comes out.
Exactly, it's changed. Yeah. But what protected Arabic and preserved Arabic is the Qur'an. And exactly, and on top of that, all these sciences you have in Arabic, none of them existed in the time of the Sahaba. None of them existed at the time of the Messenger ﷺ. They came after. For example, grammar was not written. You didn't have morphology. All these sciences that now when you learn Arabic, that are always mentioned, none of them existed at the time of the Messenger ﷺ. But rather, they were all established in order to preserve the Qur'an. For example, in the time of Ali radiallahu anhu, there's khilaf. Was it time of Ali or time of Umar radiallahu anhu? A man was in the Haram in Mecca, and he was reciting the Qur'an. He recited the verse from Surah Tawbah. Okay, so he said, he recited the verse. So obviously at that time, the Qur'an, it didn't have any harakat, no vowels, fatha, kasra, or dhamma. What do they call it in Urdu?
I don't know. I'm not sure.
And it didn't have any dots. So it was literally just letters. And the Arabs, they were eloquent people. They knew what everything was, because that was
so something like a ba and a like.
Yeah, so the ba and the ba and the ta and the tha, you would not know what's the difference between them. And they did that on purpose for some reason. But what happened was, so this man he was reciting the Qur'an, and then he recited the verse, Inna Allaha bari'un min al-mushrikina. Okay, and then the original verse is wa rasuluhu. But he recited it, وَرَسُولِهِ. That completely changes the meaning. Okay, initially the meaning, the verse means that Allah Azza wa Jal is free and disassociates himself from the idol worshippers, the polytheists, the mushriks, the mushrikeens. And his messenger also is free from them. But he recited it with kasra, which changes the meaning. It changes it to that Allah Azza wa Jal, he disassociates himself from the mushrikeen, and Allah Azza wa Jal disassociates himself from the messenger alayhi salatu wasalam. So that's awful, right? So the Bedouin heard this, and what did he say? Inna nabra'u mimma bara Allahu min. He said, we free ourselves and we disassociate ourselves from what Allah Azza wa Jal disassociates himself from. Meaning that he's disassociating himself from the Messenger alayhi salatu wasalam. If he didn't know, because he's a Bedouin, he doesn't know better. If he didn't know, that would be disbelief to some extent, right? Yeah. But what happened was, this was taken to the Khalifa, which was said it was Ali radiallahu anhu, and Umar radiallahu anhu. So he commanded that no one should recite the Qur'an and no one should teach the Qur'an except that he's aliman bi lughati al-Arab, except that he knows the language of the Arabs, the Arabic language. Because if he doesn't know Arabic, then he'll make fatal mistake like this, right?
Sorry, Scott, you also adding on to this point, you were speaking to us before about some of the crucial mistakes people have made who are reciting, who have led in Salah, and the dangers of leading in Salah if you don't know the Arabic language, because you could, for example, you mentioned one particular point that I want you to talk about. Do you know what I'm thinking about? The one where he said we are Christian.
Yeah.
So basically, so you spoke to us about, so you were saying that it's dangerous to if you don't know the Arabic language, because you could say things that could fall into very dangerous territory, essentially. And you gave us some stories and examples.
These are examples that I heard. For example, an imam was leading salah, and then he was reciting the verse, and then he said, the verse Allah Azza wa Jalla says, الَّذِينَ قَالُوا إِنَّا نَصَارَى. Okay, so he stopped there, and then he started from, so this is talking about the importance of al-waqf wal-ibtida', knowing where to stop and where to start from or resume from in the Qur'an. Okay, so he said, الَّذِينَ قَالُوا إِنَّا نَصَارَى, those who said we are Christians. And then after he said, إِنَّا نَصَارَى, we are Christians, as if he's affirming that we are Christians. Okay, or worse than that, or someone who said, for example, that the Christians said Isa ibn Allah.
But he stopped at we are Christians and he went to the call, right?
He stopped at Inna Nasara, and then الَّذِينَ قَالُوا إِنَّا نَصَارَى, those who said we are Nasara, we are Christians. And then he started from there, Inna Nasara. He's saying that everyone here is we are Christians.
And then he said Allahu Akbar.
Not exactly. He finished the verse and he finished off.
But you explain the danger
what's worse than that? What's worse than that? If, for example, it's not allowed. Surah Ma'un, أَرَأَيْتَ الَّذِي يُكَذِّبُ بِالدِّينِ. Allah Azza wa Jalla says, فَوَيْلٌ لِلْمُصَلِّينَ. Woe and a punishment for those who pray. You can't ever stop there and go to ruku', because you have to finish it off. الَّذِينَ هُمْ عَنْ صَلَاتِهِمْ سَاهُونَ. Those who are heedless of their prayer. So it's not anyone who prays. Because if you say, فَوَيْلٌ لِلْمُصَلِّينَ, then why are we praying? Right? A punishment for those who pray. Then why are we praying? But specifically those who are heedless of their prayer, they delay their prayer, they don't pray on time, etc. That's what Allah Azza wa Jalla is talking about. So these sort of places, you need to know the meaning in order not to fall into these, crazy mistakes. SubhanAllah.
So that's knowing the Arabic language, right? That's one side of it. But then there's also what you teach as well, which is reading the Qur'an correctly. And so what are the dangers of not reading the Qur'an with the correct tajweed or with the correct pronunciation of the letters, which is tajweed, right? Mm-hmm. Right. So what are the dangers of that? Because can, for example, a person lead salah and his Fatiha is not on point? And if not, then what are the dangers of it? Because I think a lot of us are very, if someone was to say, oh, brother, can you lead salah, for example, we would be quick to accept that, yeah, of course I'll lead salah. Almost as if we know that our salah is on point, yeah, I'll lead all the brothers in salah, innit? Mm-hmm. But when we hear stories about our pious predecessors, mm-hmm. not waswas, but we see that they are very careful with things like, for example, leading salah. Not how we are. Like, if someone would say to me, brother, do you want to lead salah? I'm like, yeah, cool. So I'd love to know more about like tajweed, reading the Qur'an, and the dangers of that.
Yeah. Surah Fatiha is very important. Al-Qur'an, it's the mother of the Qur'an, the greatest surah in the Qur'an, right? And it's a pillar from the pillars of salah, meaning that your salah is not correct without Surah Al-Fatiha. And the Messenger alayhi salatu wasalam, he says, لا صلاة لمن لم يقرأ بفاتحة الكتاب. There is no prayer for the one who does not recite Surah Al-Fatiha. And from that is that you recite Surah Al-Fatiha correctly, meaning that in tajweed you have something called lahan jali wa lahan khafi. You have a major mistake which is clear that anyone can realize, and anyone who knows anything about the Qur'an, he will realize it. He'll realize that there's a mistake there. And you have something called lahan khafi, which is a hidden mistake, which is only people who really know tajweed and the scholars of tajweed will really be able to figure out.
Could you give us examples of both?
So yes, I'll give you examples of both. For example, if I say Surah Al-Fatiha, صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم, okay, that's lahan jali, that's a clear mistake that anyone who knows Fatiha will realize that I've made a mistake there. And that distorts the meaning, because I'm saying in Arabic, the path of those that I have bestowed my blessings and favors upon. Okay, so that's you ascribing that to yourself, but rather it should be an'amta Allahu Azza wa Jal, ascribing to Allah Azza wa Jal. So that's a major mistake that could nullify the salah if someone does that intentionally. So that person must be corrected. He can't make a mistake like that. And then you have stuff like lahan khafi. Also amongst the lahan jali, a major mistake is that you change a letter. You change a letter to another letter, which will change the meaning. Okay, but lahan khafi is like, for example, he didn't do the mad. He didn't say wala dallin, or he didn't give it, for example, he didn't give someone that had the ghunna, the nasal sound, the ghunna, etc. Stuff like that, which is hidden, and people only tajweed, the scholar of tajweed can only realize that someone who doesn't know tajweed will not be able to realize, perhaps, that he will think, oh, person is fine, Fatiha. So the important thing is that, first of all, that your Fatiha, in order for your salah to be correct, that every single letter you pronounce correctly. You learn how to pronounce the letters. And that you don't make a mistake, that you change the haraka, a vowel, fatha, kasra, dhamma, you change it from other than that. And then learning the tajweed is very important, because look, the Muslim must have lofty aspirations and he must aim high. And the Messenger alayhi salatu salam, he taught us that. He said, إِذَا سَأَلْتُمُ اللَّهَ الْجَنَّةَ فَاسْأَلُوهُ الْفِرْدَوْسَ الْأَعْلَى. If you ask Allah Azza wa Jal for Jannah, right, then ask him for the highest part of Jannah, Firdaus. Don't just ask him for the lowest part. So the person should be like that in everything. The Qur'an, you should think, look, Allah Azza wa Jal spoke the Qur'an. The Messenger and Angel Jibreel alayhi salam, he passed it on and transmitted it to the Messenger alayhi salatu salam. And the Messenger alayhi salatu salam, he taught it to the Sahaba, and he recited it in a specific way, and they passed it on to the Tabi'in, etc. So I want to imitate the Messenger alayhi salatu salam. And Allah Azza wa Jalla says in the Qur'an, لَقَدْ كَانَ لَكُمْ فِي رَسُولِ اللَّهِ أُسْوَةٌ حَسَنَةٌ. In the Messenger alayhi salatu salam, it's the best example, the Prophet alayhi salatu salam. So I want to follow the Prophet ﷺ in every aspect, and even the way he recited the Qur'an. And I want to imitate the Messenger ﷺ by the way he recited the Qur'an. So learn to recite the Qur'an like the Prophet ﷺ. Because Allah Azza wa Jalla says, قُلْ إِن كُنْتُمْ تُحِبُّونَ اللَّهَ فَاتَّبِعُونِي يُحْبِبُكُمُ اللَّهُ وَيَغْفِرْ لَكُمْ ذُنُوبَكُمْ. Say, O Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, if you truly love Allah Azza wa Jalla, then اتَّبِعُونِي. Say to them, follow me. يُحْبِبُكُمُ اللَّهُ. Allah Azza wa Jalla will love you, and Allah Azza wa Jalla will forgive your sins. So if you truly love the Messenger ﷺ, you try to imitate him in every single aspect, even the way you recite the Qur'an. And it's not only reciting the Qur'an, but learning the meaning of it as well. Yeah. So Fatiha is very important for your salah, specifically. Yeah. Now.
So moving on to, I remember I mentioned to you when we were talking about this podcast, I wanted the crux of this podcast and this episode, and the main bulk of it to be about the Qur'an, because this is obviously, like I said, something that you have dedicated yourself to teaching and spreading the importance of learning, reading, understanding the Qur'an, right? And so when it comes to memorization now, some people might say, memorize it. If a person memorizes the Qur'an, mashallah, very good. Person, they have a very they have a very good brain. Allah has blessed them with the ability to memorize the Qur'an, but it is not for me. I'll read the Qur'an and I can be a good Muslim. How important is it to memorize the Qur'an?
How important it is? Okay. The importance is, look at this. Allah Azza wa Jalla, he says in the Qur'an, إن الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات أولئك هم خير البرية. Verily those who believe, or who believed and do righteous deeds, those are the best of creation. So everyone who believes is the best of creation. But amongst those are people who are even better. Okay, amongst the believers and those who do righteous deeds are those who are even better. And the Messenger ﷺ, he specified them. And he said in Hadith Uthman radiallahu anhu, خيركم من تعلم القرآن وعلمه. The best amongst you are those who teach the Qur'an, learn the Qur'an and teach it. And learning the Qur'an, it's many stages. Amongst the first stages that you memorize the Qur'an. Because
the first stages.
That's the first stage. Yeah, the first stage is that you learn to read the Qur'an, you memorize it. Because Allah Azza wa Jalla, he says, إِنَّا نَحْنُ نَزَّلْنَا الذِّكْرَ وَإِنَّا لَهُ لَحَافِظُونَ. Verily we have revealed the remembrance and the Qur'an, and verily we shall preserve it. So Allah Azza wa Jalla has promised to preserve the Qur'an. And one of the ways that the Qur'an has been preserved is that it has been preserved fi sudurin nas, in the hearts of the people, meaning that they have memorized it. And Allah Azza wa Jal, he says to the Messenger عليه الصلاة والسلام وإنه لتنزيل رب العالمين نزل به الروح الأمين على قلبك لتكون من المنذرين. Verily it is the revelation, the Qur'an, رب العالمين, from the Lord of the universe. نزل به الروح الأمين, came down with it is Jibreel عليه السلام, the trustworthy one. على قلبك, upon your heart, لتكون من المنذرين, to be amongst those who warn, to be amongst the warners. So the Qur'an is revealed upon the heart of the Messenger عليه الصلاة والسلام, right? So if that is the case, that shows you that the Messenger عليه الصلاة والسلام, he encouraged the Sahaba as well to learn the Qur'an, to memorize it. And Allah Azza wa Jalla, the Messenger عليه الصلاة والسلام, he was afraid that when the Qur'an was revealed to him, because it's overwhelming, that he would forget and he would not be able to memorize it. So what he would do is he would repeat fast as it was being revealed to him after Jibreel alayhi salatu wasalam. Okay, he will repeat after him. And then what happened was Allah Azza wa Jalla, he said to him, لا تحرك به لسانك لتعجل به. Don't move your tongue with it to hasten with it. إن علينا جمعه وقرآنه. Upon us is gathering it. Okay, the Qur'an. So meaning that Allah Azza wa Jalla is going to preserve the Qur'an in the heart of the Messenger alayhi salatu wasalam. He doesn't require to repeat after the Messenger, the Jibreel alayhi salatu wasalam, and to try to memorize it. So the point here is that memorizing is the first step. It's one of the first steps that one requires in order to draw closer to Allah Azza wa Jalla, because the hadith of the Messenger alayhi salatu wasalam, he said, يقال لصاحب القرآن اقرأ وارتقي ورتل كما كنت ترتل في الدنيا فإن منزلتك عند آخر آية تقرأها. It will be said to the companion of the Qur'an, okay, اقرأ, read, and ascend in Jannah, and recite like you used to recite in the dunya, for verily your position in Jannah will be by the last verse that you recite. Meaning that the more you memorize, the more Qur'an you know, the higher you'll be in Jannah. And that's why Aisha radiallahu anha, there's an athar that she says is that Jannah, the levels of Jannah are the same number of the verses of the Qur'an. So the more Qur'an you go, you know, the higher you will go in Jannah. So you go to the highest part of Jannah, Jannah Firdaus al-A'la. Naam. So it's very important to memorize the Qur'an. So I ask Allah Azza wa Jalla to allow us to memorize the Qur'an properly and to act upon it. Ameen. And the Messenger alayhi salatu wasallam is ta'ahadu hadha al-Qur'an. Stick to this Qur'an. Make it like your best friend, your companion. For وَالَّذِي نَفْسِي بِيَدِهِ. Verily I swear by the one that my soul is in his hand, that it is ashaddu tafallutan, it is easy for it to leave and to lose, min al-ibri fi uqaliha, from like the camel. When you release a camel from when you tie it, it runs fast, right? The Qur'an is like that. If you don't stick to it, you don't hold on to it, and you don't constantly read it, you'll forget it like that. It's very easy to memorize and very easy to forget, so you must constantly read it. Now,
what would your advice be to people who are older? So like, for example, please destroy the set. No, joking.
I destroyed everything.
What would your advice be to people who are older? When I say older, I mean maybe it could be 15, 16, 17, or could be 20, 21, 22 like myself, or could be in their 30s, could be in their 40s, in their 50s, even in their 60s, yeah? So who perhaps they were jahil and then they came to the deen, or perhaps they reverted to the deen, or perhaps they just never learned or were taught the Qur'an, and now they're embarrassed, right? So they're like, I'm 30 years old now, I'm 25, and I feel embarrassed to learn the Qur'an because whoever I will learn from, they might have a perception of me like, subhanallah, like you're 25 years old, you're 30 years old, you're 40 years old, and you don't even know alif ba ta. Because in our cultures, for example, especially in my culture, children are taught from very, very young the Qur'an.
Yeah.
And I know it's the same in Somali culture, isn't it?
I believe so.
So, what do you believe so?
Yes.
So yeah. But a person might be embarrassed, but maybe they'll go down that route. And the reason I ask this question is because, I was that guy who, when I wasn't practicing, I always, like I mentioned to you before, I would have I would say to myself, you know what, when I will practice, I'll be religious one day. That's what I used to say to myself. Yeah. And I used to say that my idea in my head was that about 40 years old, when I'm about 40 years old, I will start being a religious person, inshallah. Yeah, I don't know, subhanallah, I was miskeen, I still am, but alhamdulillah, Allah brought me closer to him way before that. I don't know I don't know what was going through my head, how I could assume that I was going to live till 40. But alhamdulillah, we don't know when we're going to live till. So one of the messages, I suppose, is we got to make that change now. We can't wait until we're even 25, 26, 40.
It starts
But
now.
the thing that I was always worried about was, even when I am 40 and I become religious, how am I going to like learn the Qur'an? Because I'm going to be too embarrassed to even like tell anyone that I don't know Alif Ba Ta.
Ya Allah.
So what is your advice to those people who want to learn the Qur'an but they're a bit shy, a bit embarrassed?
Okay, I'll give you a real life example, right? Before, someone who's really close to me and someone who I love dearly, and this is my grandmother. My grandmother, she came to the UK in 1991, okay? And may Allah preserve her.
I mean,
I love her to bits. I think I'm her favourite one as well.
okay. Alhamdulillah.
I hope my other siblings don't hear this. So my grandmother, she came, and she came from her parents died when she was very young, so she didn't really grow up in it with her parents. She didn't really know them, and she didn't get a chance to really learn Qur'an from a young age and so on, because obviously she was like amongst her siblings. She had to take care of them. She didn't really get education. So when she came to the UK, she decided, and she's old in age when she came in 1991. She's old. I'm going to learn the Qur'an. And then she didn't even know how to read Alif Ba Ta. She didn't know a single thing. And she started from scratch. And she was, mashallah, she persevered. And she carried on, even though she was finding it hard at her old age, to recite, all that stuff. She memorized, and she's going to lessons every single week. Never took a day off, even though she was sick at some points. And she was, and in 2012, I believe it was 2012. And subhanAllah, this year was a difficult year for her, because that's the year my grandfather passed away.
Okay.
Rahimahullah. That year, she finished the Qur'an.
SubhanAllah.
1991, 2012.
That is perseverance. Subhanallah.
Okay, so it doesn't matter what age you're at. And the best example is that the Sahaba, radwanullah alayhim, when the Qur'an was revealed, they weren't young.
Yeah.
They were old in age, some of them. And they memorized the Qur'an. And they learnt it, and they held on to it, right? Some of them were in their 30s, some of them were in their 40s, and they memorized the Qur'an, right? So the Qur'an, first of all, doesn't have an age, because Allah Azza wa Jalla says, وَلَقَدْ يَسَّرْنَا الْقُرْآنَ لِلذِّكْرِ فَهَلْ مِن مُدَّكِرٍ. He said, we have made the Qur'an easy to remember, easy to learn. So is there going to be amongst you anyone who's going to learn, anyone who's going to memorize, anyone who's going to remember? Meaning that Allah Azza wa Jalla, He made the Qur'an easy for all of us, and with no exception. Okay, and Ibn Umar, I believe, or Ibn Abbas radiyallahu anhuma, in the commentary on this verse, he says, if Allah Azza wa Jal did not make the Qur'an easy for us, then we would never be able to recite it. Because look, think of it, this Qur'an, it is kalamullah, the speech of Allah, and Allah is great, the greatest, right? So Allah Azza wa Jal being the greatest, His speech is the greatest, okay? And we are weak, du'afa. So being able to repeat the words that Allah Azza wa Jalla actually spoke, if Allah Azza wa Jalla didn't make it easy for us, we'd never be able to repeat them or recite them. For example, Musa alayhi salam, he asked Allah Azza wa Jalla, let me see you, right? And Allah Azza wa Jalla said, look at the mountain. If I'll reveal myself to the mountain, if it stays in place, then you'll be able to see me. Right, so Allah Azza wa Jalla revealed Himself to the mountain, and the mountain crumbled and it shattered. And Musa alayhi salatu salam, he fainted, he lost consciousness. Right, so that was just him looking at the mountain that Allah Azza wa Jalla revealed Himself to. Right, so imagine the speech of Allah Azza wa Jalla. That Allah Azza wa Jalla says, "لو أنزلنا هذا القرآن على جبل لرأيته خاشعا متصدعا من خشية الله." If we revealed this Quran upon a mountain, okay, it would shatter and it would crumble from the fear of Allah Azza wa Jalla. So us human beings who are weakened than mountains, imagine us. But Allah Azza wa Jalla, He allowed us to recite the Quran. And that's why Uthman radiyallahu anhu, after that, Uthman radiyallahu anhu has a famous statement. He said, لو طهرت قلوبنا لما شبعت من كلام ربنا. He said, if our hearts were pure and clean, then it will never have enough of the speech of Allah Azza wa Jalla. Meaning that we will constantly want to recite it because our hearts are clean. But what's stopping us really from learning the Quran and turning to the Quran is because of the sins and loss in our hearts. our disobedience to Allah Azza wa Jal, or what we've done generally. That's what's pushing us away really. But if we cleanse our heart and we turn back to Allah Azza wa Jal and we ask Allah Azza wa Jal to forgive us sincerely and we regret what we've done, Allah Azza wa Jal will let you start a new chapter. And trust me, the love that He will place in your heart, because you love Allah Azza wa Jal, and if you love Allah, you love His speech, because it's Allah's speech. It's part of loving Allah Azza wa Jal. You will turn to the Qur'an and you'll see a whole different new life, happiness, because Allah Azza wa Jal, He says, طه ما أنزلنا عليك القرآن لتشقى. We haven't revealed to you the Qur'an so that you may feel grief or sadness or sorrow. Rather, it's a source of happiness. And Allah Azza wa Jalla, He says, وَأَنِ اسْتَغْفِرُوا رَبَّكُمْ ثُمَّ تُوبُوا إِلَيْهِ يُمَتِّعْكُمْ مَتَاعًا حَسَنًا إِلَى أَجَلٍ مُسَمًّى. And seek forgiveness from Allah Azza wa Jalla and turn back to Him in repentance. What will happen? What's the result? Allah Azza wa Jalla will let you live a life of enjoyment and happiness and contentment until you die. And turning back to Allah Azza wa Jalla, part of it is that you start practicing and you learn the Qur'an, you learn your religion. And trust me, sa'adah, happiness that can't be described.
Was it Uthman ibn Affan who recited the entire Qur'an in one witr or one rak'ah?
One rak'ah, yeah.
One rak'ah of what? Of witr?
Qiyam. He was praying
Qiyam.
at night. And look, in Qiyam, normally you try to pray as many rak'ahs as possible, right? Uthman radiallahu anhu, he started Qiyam. And he started from Qur'an, from Baqarah. Okay, he started reciting. And he was enjoying the Qur'an so much, he got carried away, he finished the Qur'an in one rak'ah.
Subhanallah.
And he didn't feel it. And subhanallah, when you hear this, right, you may think, wow, like how did he manage to do that?
Yeah.
Standing the whole Qur'an, 114 surahs, reciting one rak'ah, it's possible. And the reason why we may not be able to believe it is because we're comparing Uthman radiallahu anhu to ourselves. And that's wrong. Uthman radiallahu anhu, don't compare him to yourself. It's doable if you just strive and if you have that love for the Qur'an, and it's that love that drove them, right? And I'll give you a real life example. Someone who's alive now, I won't mention his name, but someone I know personally, subhanallah, yani, the stories that you see with the relationship with the Qur'an and how long he's praying at night, and he's quite old in age now and he's not the healthiest person, but he will stand the whole night and he's reciting the Qur'an. He's not getting tired, and we probably will get tired and we're exhausted, but he's standing, and no matter how sick he is and no matter how tired he is, the salah and the qiyam is where he finds that relaxation and that happiness. For instance, I remember he was leading in his masjid and he recited a lot, but this night that he was reciting and he was leading, he was really tired and he was really exhausted. I think he didn't get much sleep the night before, so he was really tired and he started leading salah. And subhanallah, what the great thing is that the Qur'an, I believe the Qur'an, it runs in his blood, because how strong his memorization is unbelievable. He's reciting the Qur'an in prayer with a beautiful voice and letting the people, have khushu' in the salah and enjoy the prayer. And then he happens to be asleep in the prayer. Imagine he reciting the Qur'an without making a single mistake, but he's dozed off because he was so tired, but he's leading salah, right? He's not fully asleep, but he's like not fully there, right? And the way we realized is that he had like a scarf that was around his neck, and that scarf came on his shoulder. And what happened after that it kind of slipped off, and then it fell on the ground, and then it touched his feet. So he kind of got shocked, and he thought like a cat walked into the masjid and was touching his feet. So he kind of surprised him. So in salah, what he said was in salah, he said, La ilaha illallah. He said that in salah.
Oh really?
Yeah, out loud on the microphone. So everyone's thinking, wow, what's happened? And so after the prayer, he turned around and asked, did I say something in salah? And they said, yeah, Sheikh, you said La ilaha illallah. He said, I dozed off. And the Qur'an was, the recitation, no different. You would never ever know. You never ever know. And this, subhanallah, this Sheikh, may Allah Azza wa Jalla bless him and preserve him, he, when he would walk for hours and hours, exercise, okay? And then the people around him, they would get tired, but they want to accompany him, the Sheikh, they want to stick around him. So when he gets tired, he says, let's stop and he wouldn't sit down. He said, let's stop and let's read Qur'an, because in the Qur'an, it rejuvenates me. I get energy back. Again, so he starts reciting the Qur'an, starts doing adhkar, dhikr, and then he carries on. Subhanallah. Look at the relationship he has with the Qur'an. And this person is not someone who lived 100 years ago. He's alive right now. He's alive. And it shows you that it's a matter of you, working on yourself. And you can definitely do it. So it's a matter of focusing, having a goal, I need to achieve, and you can do it.
SubhanAllah.
Yeah.
So when people are learning to memorize the Qur'an, you hear a lot of tips, advice, like for example, read an ayah and then look at a blank wall and then recite it back. I've heard that. I've heard read an ayah and then read half of an ayah and then keep repeating that, then read the other half of the ayah, keep repeating that, and then read the whole ayah and then keep repeating that until you got that in your head, and then go to the next one, etc. What are some quick tips that you can provide for people who are trying to memorize verses of the Qur'an?
Number one, it is the practical tips are, yes, they're needed to know practical tips, but one of the most important practical tips that many people they may not be so, they may not be aware of, it is ad-du'a wa ta'alluq billahi azza wa jal. To ask Allah azza wa jal. This Qur'an is the speech of Allah azza wa jal, and no one will be able to teach you the Qur'an except Allah azza wa jal. Allah azza wa jal says wattaqullah wa yu'allimukum Allah. Fear Allah azza wa jal, be conscious of Allah azza wa jal, and Allah azza wa jal will teach you, right? And the greatest thing that Allah Azza wa Jal can teach you is the book of Allah Azza wa Jal, the Qur'an, right? So asking Allah Azza wa Jal, Allahumma allimni al-Qur'an, Allahumma fahimni al-Qur'an, Allahumma ij'alni min ahli al-Qur'an. Asking Allah Azza wa Jal sincerely. And Allah Azza wa Jal, when He sees sidq and truthfulness in your heart, Allah Azza wa Jal will grant you that, no doubt. وَمَا ذَلِكَ عَلَى اللَّهِ بِعَزِيزٍ. And that's not difficult for Allah Azza wa Jal. So dua, that's number one. And then after taking those practical steps that many people they mention, and one of the first, it is repetition. And that you constantly repeat the verses. But not only that, but you also have a surrounding that supports you, that motivates you. You have friends that are constantly asking you, listen to me, let me listen to your memorization, what have you memorized today? You're competing. Good competition is good. وَفِي ذَلِكَ فَلْيَتَنَافَسِ الْمُتَنَافِسُونَ, Allah says. And in that, the people should compete. In khair, you should compete. The Sahaba, radiyallahu alayhim, they compete in khair. Allah Azza wa Jalla says, وَسَابِقُوا إِلَى مَغْفِرَةٍ مِّن رَبِّكُمْ, and compete and rush towards the forgiveness of Allah. وَسَارِعُوا إِلَى مَغْفِرَةٍ مِّن رَبِّكُمْ, rush towards, hasten towards the forgiveness of Allah and paradise. So competition is good, and that helps you, or it motivates you to learn more. And also to be consistent, that you memorize something every day. Right, and that's the most important thing, because it's consistency that gets you somewhere, right? Personally, me, when I was memorizing the Qur'an, I wasn't the best person, to be honest. Just average, ordinary person, right? And I wouldn't say that I'm the ideal person to tell people how to memorize the Qur'an, because at the beginning I found memorizing quite difficult. For example, when I was memorizing the first 5 juz of the Qur'an, my teacher is a witness to this. If he sees this, then I give him salam. Well, Allah Azza wa Jalla preserve him. Every time I remember him, Allah, I sincerely make dua for him, because he's like, the ulama, they say you have 2 fathers in your life. Okay, your real father who's your
fathers.
You have 2 fathers. Okay, your biological father, and you have your father who taught you, who gave you tarbiyah. Okay, so my teacher Sheikh Ismail, may Allah Azza wa Jalla preserve him, every time I remember him, I make dua for him, because he was very, very patient with me. Right? If I was him, I would have kicked myself out a long time ago. But he's very patient with me, and he gave me time. He would give me advice. Sometimes he'd be very hard on me, and at the time I wouldn't understand, because when I started with him, I was very young. Okay. I wouldn't understand, why is he being so hard on me? Like, I think he doesn't like me. That's what I used to think. But now we're best friends. Back then, I never used to understand him. So I used to be quite afraid, because he was quite stern, and he had that approach of that the teacher of the Qur'an, and subhanallah, that the teacher of the Qur'an, he shouldn't speak much. The teacher of the Qur'an, he doesn't laugh too much, etc. Because he believed that what he's carrying in his chest and his heart, it is great. And he must observe the way he uphold himself. And subhanAllah, he was example of what he said to us. He was example of that. He was a living example of that. So what was I talking about? Why did I mention him?
Because I was asking.
Oh yes, he was very patient with me. Okay. Right. So I found difficult memorizing, especially the first 5 juz of the Qur'an.
Yeah.
I would go to him, I would make a lot of mistakes. He would have a go at me. He would say, you need to work harder, you need to do better. And, he would motivate me, to be honest. And after I got past the first 5 juz of the Qur'an, memorizing got very easy for me, subhanAllah. Allah Azza wa Jalla opened doors for me. And I never imagined that I would be able to memorize a whole page in 10 minutes. I'll sit down, I'll open the page, I'll look at it, I'll repeat a few times, I'll close the mushaf, I'll repeat it from the top of my head. In 10 minutes, I'm done.
SubhanAllah.
But obviously that's temporary memory. You have to keep repeating it to make it firm. So Allah Azza wa Jalla made it easy for me. And then the rest of the way, and then always, subhanAllah, yani, Allah Azza wa Jalla says, لَإِن شَكَرْتُمْ لَأَزِيدَنَّكُمْ. If you're grateful, Allah Azza wa Jalla will increase you. So when my memorization, when it got easier for me, I got quite lazy. I thought, I don't need to take so much time out to memorize. I can just do it quickly. Right? Last minute, I memorized a few pages. So, but then I realized, no, this is not the way. You have to, because in order for you to get somewhere, you have to dedicate a lot of time. Even if it's easy for you, still do more. So I got to a stage where I was memorizing 10 pages, hizb, for example, in just not a long period of time. And then I go to my teacher, I'll read to him, and then I'll sit back and I'll just memorize a few pages like that. It got easier, alhamdulillah. And this is all from Allah Azza wa Jal. And so it's about person, trying, keep going, and being serious about you want to achieve something. And Allah Azza wa Jal will allow you to achieve it.
Jazakallah khair, Ustad. Okay, let's take a quick break, inshallah, and then when we come back, let's talk about Yahya Raaby, the person.
If you hear about me, you will not like Yahya Raaby. Very boring.
We'll take a quick break. Is it recording, yeah? And the audio as well? Yeah, so the thing I was saying is what was I about to say? Yeah, about the dad thing. So I could always definitely improve my relationship with my dad, and I think that one of the things that maybe people in general with boys and their fathers and stuff, there's probably in general it's always a challenging relationship. But I heard someone say something ages ago about the Sahaba, and they were listing loads of the benefits of why Allah sent down the Qur'an and Islam to the Arabs, right? And
the ethics they have.
Some of them, one of them was, so they were mentioning the ethics, the morals that they have, and that generally they have a certain ethics, morals that are really good, and other things that they had issues with that Islam would kind of correct, and this, that, the other. Mm-hmm. One of the characteristics that they were saying, and I can't remember because it was years ago I heard this, but one of the characteristics they were saying that was a beautiful characteristic was how the Arabs treated their fathers. They treated their fathers with so much love, and they kind of obeyed their fathers so much that unfortunately unfortunately for some of them and for a lot of them it was so much that they didn't accept Islam just because of their fathers. So that's obviously I suppose a bad example of it in the sense that but generally it shows how much they respected their fathers, which is in itself a good characteristic, as long as I suppose you don't put that above the rights that Allah has, right?
And that's exactly what Allah Azza wa Jal, because He knew that they had this, right? Their parents or their fathers were their number one idol to them, and they looked up to them, and they listened to, and they obeyed everything they said, right? So Allah Azza wa Jal says, وَوَصَّيْنَا الْإِنسَانَ بِوَالِدَيْهِ إِحْسَانًا وَإِنْ جَاهَدَاكَ عَلَىٰ أَن تُشْرِكَ بِي مَا لَيْسَ لَكَ بِهِ عِلْمٌ فَلَا تُطِعْهُمَا. But if they strive against you to associate partners with me, or to do something that in the disobedience of Allah Azza wa Jal, فَلَا تُطِعْهُمَا, then don't obey them, right? Your parents. But look at the advice, وَصَاحِبُهُمَا فِي الدُّنْيَا مَعْرُوفًا. But in the dunya, be a good companion to them. Be good to them, be dutiful to them, as long as you don't disobey Allah Azza wa Jal in what you're doing. And the hadith says, لا طاعة لمخلوق في معصية الخالق. There's no obedience to a creation in the disobedience of the Creator, right? And that's what Allah Azza wa Jalla, the Messenger alayhi sallam, they made that clear. And one of the great examples in birr, in being dutiful to your parents, or to the mother specifically, you have Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu. Abu Hurairah, he accepted Islam at the age of around 20, roughly, in Medina. And he adored his mother. Right, his father wasn't alive, so he only had his mother for his parents. And he loved her so much. He was so dutiful to her. He would do anything she told him to do. So Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu, he really wanted his mother to accept Islam, right? But she kept refusing, and to the extent that, you know, she one day she went so far to insulting the Messenger alayhi salatu wasalam. That's how angry she got, because he kept insisting accept Islam, give her da'wah, etc. And then one day she got really angry, and then she insulted the Messenger alayhi salatu wasalam. And then after that, so Abu Hurairah was really upset about this. He went to the Messenger alayhi salatu wasalam, Ya Rasulullah. He was crying. He said, make dua for my mother. And the Messenger alayhi salatu wasalam, he raised his hand, and he asked Allah Azza wa Jalla, oh Allah, guide the mother of Abu Hurairah. Abu Hurairah went home. He opened the door. He saw his mum's face is different. It's a completely different person. And then she tells him that she has accepted Islam. Imagine. That was one of the happiest days of Abu Hurairah's life. It is said that Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu, he would eat from the same plate as his mother, okay, food. And he would consider that it is uquq, meaning disobedience of the parents. That if he ate something from the plate that he's sharing with his mother, something that her eye saw.
SubhanAllah. This is so it makes
her
it makes me feel so embarrassed with how we are to our parents, man. SubhanAllah.
My parents are gonna watch this, gonna say, you've been eating all our food.
Yeah.
But her eye, she just laid her eyes upon this, right? If he saw that, he would try to avoid. So he wouldn't eat, he would barely eat anything until she'd finished, basically, and then he would start eating. Right, that's how he was with his mother. And then you have the example of Sa'ad ibn Abu Qas radiallahu anhu. Sa'ad, who was one of the 10 who were promised paradise, when he accepted Islam, his mother, she refused to eat and to drink and to seek shade in Mecca. And you know how hot Mecca is. Whoever's been there knows how it's hot. Like, she's standing outside, she wouldn't go anywhere inside. She wouldn't eat and drink until he leaves his religion. And then she said, you're going to be the one, tu'ayyiruhu Quraysh, that Quraysh is going to shame, they're going to call him the one who killed his mother because he didn't listen to her, he didn't obey her, right? And that's obviously something that's very shameful in their culture and their society. But Sa'ad, he was strong and he was firm, and he didn't listen to her. She kept telling him, leave Islam. He didn't listen to her, because he knew this qa'idah the Prophet ﷺ taught them, لا طاعة لمخلوق في معصية الخالق. There's no obedience to creation in the disobedience of the Creator, right? So then he said to her a famous statement. He said, Ya Ummah. Look, he's calling her respect. Oh, my mother. He said, لو كانت لك 1000 نفس. If you had 1,000 lives, and each soul or nafs, it went out one after the other, I would have never left this religion. Okay, he said that to her. And even despite him saying that to her, he was still dutiful to her. And then when she saw how serious he was about Islam, she ate and she drank and she sought shade, meaning that she realized that he's not leaving for anything. And that's how these Sahaba alayhim were. Allahu Akbar, with their parents. Allahu Akbar.
That reminded me of a story when that's my wedding ring. That reminded me of a story. It's not going anything to do with parents, but you were telling us the other day that your sheikh was here and he's on a diet. Was this a private thing that we shouldn't mention on the podcast?
Go ahead.
Okay, we won't mention too much, but basically, because he wasn't eating much, you guys, out of respect, didn't eat, right?
Starved.
Because because that day we saw you were really hungry, and it reminded me of a story, but it's like the opposite. So basically, so what happened is, because your sheikh wasn't eating, you out of respect for him were refusing to eat as well, right?
Yeah.
I have a story that's funny. That's the opposite of that, where basically when we went out to Dubai, we basically wanted to meet with Ustad Tim Humble. We wanted to meet with Sheikh Tim Humble, yeah. And we knew Ustad Abdurrahman Hassan was there at the time, and so my intention was that was my link into get a meeting with Sheikh Tim Humble, because Ustad was teaching with at Kalima, right? Which is where Ustad Tim Humble also teaches. So now there's three of us: me, Abdul Samad, who's normally on this podcast, and our brother Shahid in Dubai, right? So we want to, we all love Ustad Tim Humble. I've been watching his lectures from day, and we love hearing about him. We love the way he speaks, the way he gives da'wah. And so we really wanted to meet him, right? And so I had received a message from my brother that was insinuating that, look, I think that inshallah we're going to, Ustad Tim is happy to meet with you guys. Like, maybe like go for some tea or coffee, whatever. Well, we didn't know the extent to it, right? And so we got really excited. And then as the day got on further and further, it looked like it wasn't going to happen, because he was teaching until Isha. He'd been teaching since maybe Dhuhr or Fajr. Like, he'd been teaching all day, and Isha there was late because it was summer. And so it looked like it wasn't going to happen. And then we were getting more and more hungry, and so we had decided that we're gonna go, because it doesn't look like it's gonna happen, we're gonna go for dinner. Yeah, so we decided to go for dinner, me, Abdul Samad and Shahid. I hope Abdul Samad and Shahid, because I know Shahid will be listening to this as well, I hope they don't mind me telling the story, but we had decided, all right, we're gonna go for food because it doesn't look like it's gonna happen. And so on our way to food, I got the call saying that it's happening. Yeah, inshallah we're gonna meet. By now I think we hadn't eaten all day or something, and so we're really, really, really hungry. And what we wanted to do out of respect and love is we didn't want to go to Ustad Tim, who meet for the first time, and be so hungry that we can't even concentrate on a conversation with him and give him love. And like, we really wanted to just like listen to him and talk to him and ask him for advice and nasiha. And so I think, as far as I remember, I might be telling the story wrong, but from what I remember, this is one of the reasons why. So we decided, but we didn't know if, for example, that's one thing we didn't want to do. But secondly, we didn't want to eat loads in front of him and be disrespectful to him. Just eat and eat and eat and eat in front of a student of knowledge when we're trying to gain nasiha from him, right? And so what we had, and we didn't know if, for example, we were going to go for a bite to eat, or if we were going to go for some coffee, or if we weren't even going to go at all to somewhere to eat, we were just going to like sit with him. So to be safe, what we had decided is we'll get a small piece of food on our way to our meeting with Ustad Tim Humble. Yeah, so we didn't end up going to the restaurant we were going to go to, and we decided on the way we'll just stop off at McDonald's in Dubai, and we will eat some food, right? So we stopped at McDonald's, and subhanAllah, when you haven't eaten for a very long time, even if you eat a tiny bit, it really fills you up. So we ate some McDonald's, and it filled us all up so much, yeah. And so, alhamdulillah, we thought, okay, this is good anyway, because at least when we go to Ustad Tim, we won't be like eating in front of him really like embarrassingly. We'll just eat a bit with him, and also we will be able to concentrate, etc. So, cut long story short, we get to this restaurant. We end up going to this restaurant with Ustad Tim Humble, and we sit down on the floor, and he starts speaking to the waiter in Arabic. Yeah, I don't understand what he's saying. I assume Shahid understood, but I didn't understand. And so what he ends up doing is he ends up ordering like a lot of food for all of us. And so the food comes, and we're all eating at the same plate as well, same plates, yeah. And finally we all sat on the floor eating, and I'm sitting here, and Sheikh Tim Humble is sitting right next to me. And so he proportions them off into smaller plates so that we can all eat a bit more efficiently, because there's a lot of us. Alhamdulillah, it was me, Sheikh Tim Humble, Ustad Abdul Rahman Hassan, Ustad Tim Humble's children, one of his sons, and then like a few brothers. And so we're eating. So he takes it off, and so I am now sharing this plate with Ustad Tim Humble, and he's eating. Obviously, he's been lecturing all this. He's hungry, but I have just finished a big McDonald's. I'm so full, and he is looking at me. He's saying, Akhi, why are you not eating? Like I've been watching you this whole time and you haven't been eating. And I was so much like, oh Sheikh, no, I'm not too hungry. There's hungry polite. And he's like, no, you have to eat. He was being polite to me. He's like, you have to eat. And he was proportional food for me, and he was saying, we're not like, you have to eat this. And I was feeling so embarrassed. And the whole time he was like trying to encourage me to eat more, but I was already so full. And my intention was out of respect. I had already eaten before, but then I felt really bad, and so that's the end of the story.
Allahu Akbar.
So I have an opposite story. So you didn't eat because you wanted to be respectful, and I wanted to be respectful, so I did eat. And then it turned out bad for me. Because then I was being disrespectful by not like eating with him.
Yeah. There's a there's incredible story that's narrated by Sheikh Abu Ishaq Al-Huwaini, Hafidhahullah. He's one of the major students of Sheikh Al-Bani rahimahullah jalla wa ala. He says that Sheikh Al-Bani rahimahullah, he invited him to his house. Okay. So Sheikh Al-Bani, he was a murabbi. He used to discipline and he would nurture his students with the etiquettes and manners and so on. And when he narrates his story, he says that we went to the home of the Sheikh rahimahullah, And when we were in his house, so he invited us to food, we were eating. So the Sheikh, he needed to get something. If I remember the story correctly, he needed to get something. So Abu Ishaq al-Huwaini, Sheikh Abu Ishaq, he decided, I'm going to go get for the Sheikh. So the Sheikh commanded him, he said, no, you're going to sit and you're going to eat. And the Sheikh was serving them. And obviously your Sheikh serving you is not something you could have, right? So he was like, how can my Sheikh serve me? I must serve him. So the Sheikh commanded him, nope, you're going to sit, you're in my house, I'm going to serve you. And then he said, Sheikh, but it's not from etiquette for you to serve me. Then he taught him a lesson. And that lesson was that it's from etiquette to obey your teacher. That's what etiquette. If he tells you, you must do this, then you must do that. That's you being respectful. And that's you being someone who has etiquette and manners, right? So he taught him that it is al-imtithal, that you fulfill what he's telling you to do, as long as it's not something haram. And he wouldn't tell you to do something haram anyway. But you thinking that you are being respectful by disobeying him and doing something that you think is respectful, he said that's incorrect. That's not adab. That's you being disrespectful. Because he told you do this, and you did the opposite of that, you assuming and thinking that this is you being respectful. So he taught him al-adab, it is al-imtithal, fulfilling and following what you are told or what you did. And with adab, you understand ilm anyway. It's a narrative from Yusuf al-Hussein, Ibn al-Hussein, rahimahullah jalla wa ala, from the Salaf. He says that bil-adabi yufhamul ilm. He said, with etiquette and manners, do you understand ilm, knowledge? If someone doesn't have etiquette and manners, he won't understand, he won't comprehend knowledge correctly. Because ilm is not something, only information that you memorize or you understand, but rather it's something that you live by. And you won't be able to understand the reality of that knowledge, except that if you have someone who has etiquette and manners, because then you can relate to it. Because ilm, it increases you in your etiquette and manners, it makes someone better. It makes you better. That's what it does. So yeah, that's a good story. You eating was good. It was the right decision.
I don't know if I ate enough. Okay, so before we went for our break, we just kind of carried this conversation on from what we were speaking about off air. Before we went to our break, I mentioned that we were going to go talk about Yahya Raaby, the person. Because, and so the thing that I wanted to talk about first is, I think when people first look at you or listen to you, the first question that comes to their mind is, SubhanAllah, he's so young, how old is he? So
they're never going to find out.
They're never going to find out. But
I think even I've forgotten.
SubhanAllah. What I want to know is, being young, what's your journey been like with regards to, because now, alhamdulillah, you teach at Badr Academy. You teach. What do you teach in Turkey? Because I know you teach Arabic. You specifically, which classes do you teach? Arabic reading?
I teach all the classes.
Oh, you teach all of them?
Yeah, all the levels. I teach Arabic and all its sciences. And we have obviously some Islamic subjects that are included as well.
Okay, alhamdulillah.
So I teach, whether it's from the beginning, teach people to read, write, whether it's learning ta'bir, expression, learning grammar, etc., all that stuff. So we teach that, yeah, alhamdulillah.
So what's your journey been? When did you start learning?
When did I start learning?
Yeah.
Well, generally, the background that I come from, it's that at an early age, we're taken to like madrasa, memorize Qur'an, etc. So from a young age, my parents, jazakumullah khair, may Allah Azza wa Jal preserve them and reward them. Ameen. They took me to madrasa to memorize Qur'an, because that's important. That's like the most important thing. Your child must learn Qur'an. Your child must be in that environment. So they took us to that when I was about 5. I started 4 or 5. I was taken to madrasa straight away early. So we started the Qur'an, memorize Qur'an. I remember in my house, my mother, she would like do a competition amongst us, my siblings, and we would read. I remember I was in Juz Amma at that time, so I knew the small surah, and whoever recited the surah correctly would get like a sweet or a treat. And I used to probably be competitive with my sisters and stuff. Like my older sister, I think she was like 1 surah ahead of me at the time, so I used to be so jealous. No, I need to catch her up, and I need to beat her, and so that's how like it started. I remember that. I don't know if my parents, if they're hearing this, I don't know if they remember that, but I remember that very clearly. And then obviously that was in a different country, because I was not born in the UK.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I was born in Denmark. Okay. So can
you speak Denmarkian?
Danish. Okay. Denmarky. No, I don't speak Danish. I could speak it. I went to school there until I was like 5. Then I came to the UK when I was 5.
Okay.
And then, I never told anyone that, so that could be exclusive.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
We could make that into a little Instagram snippet,
La ilaha
little
illallah.
preview trailer.
It doesn't matter what I was born anyway. So then I came here when I was about 5.
Okay.
And then, there's always a question that I get a lot. Some people, when I tell them that I wasn't born in the UK, they're quite shocked sometimes. They're like, well, how, you got born in the UK? Like, why do you speak English like that? Because for some reason, apparently I have some weird accent, right?
You do have a weird accent.
Yeah, I have some weird accent. And then when I tell them how I learned English, it's actually a funny story. So I came to school. I started school in year 1 or something like that. And then obviously I didn't know English at the time. So what happened was there used to be like an assistant teacher who used to take me out of class, and she would sit with me, and she would like give me an English session. She would teach me words, and she would teach me how to pronounce things. She would teach me the names. She would give me pictures, and she would say, "This is a cucumber." And I'll say after her, cucumber, right? And then she had this accent that I have.
Because you have a posh twang to your accent.
Whatever it is, I don't know.
Being from where you're from, nobody in that area has a posh twang. I'll tell you that much.
It's quite strange. So basically, she taught me English like Qur'an. Qur'an, your teacher will recite the verse for you, recite after him. Okay. That's how she taught me English. She will say the word, and then I'll say it after her. She will say cucumber, and then I'll say cucumber.
Because you pronounce all your T's and your D's.
To the extent that she even taught me how to say my own name in English. Really? She was like, "What's your name?" And I would say Yahya Raaby, proper, Arabic way of saying it. Obviously, there's no hat in Arabic, in English, I mean. And so she would say, "No, your name is Yahya Raaby."
Yahya Raaby.
And then I'll say after her, she'd say Yahya Raaby.
Did you ever introduce yourself as that?
In school, that was my name. Basically.
Really? Yahya?
Yahya Raaby, that was my name in school. But my name's Yahya. So I would say, nobody could say the Yahya. So I had trouble in school. So that's how I developed the accent. So anyway, going back to learning Arabic. I don't know how we got there. So obviously when I was around the age of 7, 8 or 9, I can't remember exactly, I used to sit in class, Qur'an classes, I used to think, if only I learned Arabic, then I would have achieved everything. Like, if I learned Arabic, that's it, like, I've achieved everything. Because for some reason, I really liked Arabic from the beginning, from a young age, and I didn't know why. So, and then I started Badr around that age. Was it 10? I don't know, I can't remember exactly.
Were you the youngest student at Badr?
I wasn't the youngest at the time, but I was one of the youngest, yeah. I started very young. Badr was very different to how it is now at the time. So, bismillah.
But what did you learn from them? Because I know at Badr nowadays courses for foundation where people are even learning how to read the Qur'an, but you had already started, you'd already know how to read. And
that's what you think, right?
Oh, okay.
That's what you think. So I came to Badr, really, the way I learned Qur'an in the beginning was just only memorizing through listening, and my parents, I would listen on the internet, I would just memorize it by hearing. That's how it was. I didn't know how to read from the Mus'haf properly. Okay. So when I came to Badr, I think I'd memorized at the time 3 juz. Starting from Amma, Tabarak, Juz Tabarak, and Juz Qad Sami'. Those 3 juz. I knew somehow. But if you ask me to open the Mus'haf, I would really stutter and I'll struggle to read. So really, when I came to Badr, I started from scratch.
Fine, okay.
So I started from Juz Amma against Surah Nas. Okay, but this time learning with Tajweed with my teacher. So Badr at the time, he was teaching us everything together, with Qur'an, with Tajweed, and Arabic, and Islamic sciences, etc. Everything, it was all rounded. So when I started memorizing the Qur'an, started learning Arabic, and then I just fell in love with Arabic. And then I indulged myself in the language. To the extent that everything I was watching was only in Arabic. I would just go on YouTube, I would watch shows, like Islamic shows, I would watch khutbas on Islamic shows, mostly Saudi channels and stuff. Qanat al-Majd, if anyone knows it, that's what I used to watch, and other TV channels like that. And I wouldn't understand everything, but from the few things that I learned in class, that would kind of help me get the context and the gist of things, what they're saying. So to the extent that a year later, so that year I started learning Arabic, I went to Umrah a few months later. So let's say I started learning Arabic in February that year. In August, I went to Umrah. So this is how really I measured how much I learned. When I went to Umrah that year, knew nothing. Okay? Really? Struggled, couldn't have a conversation. A year later, I went to Egypt. That year later, I could have conversations.
How old were you when you went to Egypt? Oh, you not study? You mean you went to Egypt?
No, just holiday. My aunt lives there, so I went to go visit her. I never learned Arabic anywhere else but the UK. Okay. So showing that you can learn Arabic here. Okay. So I went to Egypt and I was there with my aunt and I was used to go around the shops and stuff, and I tried to have a conversation.
But were you speaking to the
Fusha?
Okay, in Fusha.
Yes, Fusha. Obviously, I never knew dialect then, and obviously they don't speak in Fusha everywhere. But the point is that I could understand what they're saying to some extent, and I knew I could structure the sentence and say some things. Okay, now in Badr it should take less, because at the beginning when I started they were trying different things with us, so it took a bit longer. And then a year later again I went Umrah, and by then I was a translator for the whole group.
Oh, subhanallah.
Like all my friends, I was going to shop, I would translate for them. And by that time, even because I was so into YouTube and I was picking up so many things from just listening. I think I learned through listening, I believe. So I would just pick up things, and to the extent that I picked up the Saudi dialect. So those who know me now, when I go to Saudi, they think that I lived in Saudi before, and I probably was raised there because I speak in their dialect.
Do you know who that's very similar? Have you heard of a guy called Max of Arabia?
No,
there's a guy on social media. He's American guy. I'll show you his thing now. And basically, he went to. I can't remember his story. It's something along the lines of like he's very famous on social media. He's got 500,000 followers, and let me show you some of his videos.
So he speaks Arabic.
I'll show you now.
Let's see. Let me judge how good his Arabic is.
عدد الناس اللي جاء تحت الأرض أو في المستشفى بسبب جرائم إسرائيل بس في يوم واحد الجمعة اللي فات وإحنا ساكتين وما حد ياس ينزل شيء. أنا ما أحب أتكلم في السياسة، أنا أكره السياسة بس واجب.
He speaks like Robert Saudi.
Let me show you.
أنا أكره السياسة.
I'm going to tell you a story. You're going to be really surprised. Listen to this stuff.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته ويا هلا والله. بقول لكم شيء صراحة، أنا الحين أنقع، قبل كنت أنقع، قبلها كنت أنقع أكثر وأكثر. في البداية السلام عليكم، أنا اسمي ماكس، أنا يجي من أمريكا، أنا في واجد يحب الإمارات، هذا في بلاد زين. شوفوا ما في عيب، ما في حد من أول ما يبدأ يتكلم لغة يتكلم الصح، ما في عيب. فأتمنى منكم يوم تشوفون واحد أجنبي لواحد من أي دولة ولا أي جنسية يحاول يتعلم لغة ثانية، ساعدوه، شجعوه. والله يعني مثلا شفتوا واحد أمريكي ينقع، ساعدوه.
صحيح.
تيبه يتشجع في الموضوع بيستمر وإن شاء الله بيتعلم اللغة الصح. So you guys, just a quick request from you guys, when you see somebody trying to learn a new language, any language, even if they're doing a terrible job at it, help them, support them. So basically, I'm going to tell you something in a second, but let me show you one last one.
لهجته ما شاء الله.
I'm going to show you one last one before.
جابها.
So I only came across this guy literally about 2 days ago. I didn't know who he was. He's so famous. I had no idea who he was. I sent him a message on Instagram. He did not reply, but you don't try, you don't get. And maybe my followers.
He lives in the UK?
No, so he lives in UAE.
Okay.
I want to show you one last video before I tell you his story, because I was intrigued by him. I was intrigued by him, so I looked up his story. And okay, this one.
Oliver. Oh, Max. What's up, bro? Long time no see. How are you doing? I'm very good. How are you doing, man? I'm very good. Mind if I join you? Please. Awesome, thanks. Long time no see, man. How have you been?
Very good, very good. How's everything? How's the fun? Good stuff. I have a phone call. Do excuse me.
My guess.
السلام عليكم. مو حالك؟ مو أخبارك؟ تمام؟ أقول لك شوية مشغول، عندي ضيف بس برجع لك إن شاء الله بخصوص الموضوع اللي تبغى أغني فيه. تمام؟
الله يسامحك. من الصبح ياس أكلمك إنجليزي، تعبتني يا رياض.
تتكلم كذا.
عايش في الإمارات. كيف ياس تتكلم عماني؟
عايش هنا ترى.
ما شاء الله عليك. ما دام انك ولد البلاد خلينا نتغدى.
شو؟ وين بتغديني؟
So my point is this, yeah. Let me tell you. So basically, have you noticed how he can speak different dialects as well?
Yeah, different dialects.
So basically, what happened is, from what I've read of his story, so he's American and he's American. He's American. He went to, because I was trying to find out if he was Muslim, if he reverted. I don't know. I'm assuming he is, but I'm not 100% sure, because I don't know anything about him really. But from his story, what I've read is and I don't know the validity of this either, because I literally just read it online. But he was American. He went to UAE. I think maybe to go on holiday or to study or something. I can't remember. But he fell in love with the Arab culture and the Arab language. So he started studying language, and and so what he's known as, that he's known by the Arabs as Max of Arabia, and that's why his name is Max of Arabia, because he started learning all of the dialects. So he can speak Arabic like an Emirati, and so in the Emirati they started calling him that because they were shocked by his dialect. And then he can go to Oman and speak like an Omani, etc., etc., because he just like was amazed by the language, and so he learned himself. So that's what reminded me of. So how was his Arabic?
Excellent. There's two things, right? A dialect. I don't encourage people at the beginning to learn dialect because if you know dialects and you don't know Fusha, then it's harder to learn Fusha. But if you know the Fusha, which is MSA really, Modern Standard Arabic, once you learn that, then learning any dialect is easy. But because dialect sometimes it can be so far from the reality of the actual Fusha, the MSA, you might find it difficult, or because there's a few differences. But subhanallah, his dialect is really good. You would think he's one of them. For example, at the beginning when he spoke, he was probably Khaliji, now Omani, mashallah. I would think that he lived all his life there. Right? Yeah.
So Fusha is the language, or is the Arabic that is in the Qur'an, correct?
Yeah. So you have the Arabic of the Qur'an is the clear Arabic. So Fusha is basically like the formal Arabic where there's you're not speaking all the dialects. So everywhere, any Arab country you go, that's the main language that you do.
And that's the Arabic of the khutbahs, etc.
Yeah, the khutbahs.
Now, am I right in thinking that if you were to go to somewhere like, for example, Saudi, Egypt, etc., and you were to speak Fusha to them, you'd kind of be laughed at?
You'd be laughed at, yeah. I have a few stories. For example, we went to Egypt. So obviously, some people only go to Egypt, they only know Fusha, right? Especially those who go to study Arabic, they only know Fusha. They don't learn the actual dialects of the people there. So one person, he went to a shop and he wanted to ask the shopkeeper, I want to buy a book. So he said in Fusha, أريد أن أشتري منك كتابا. Proper Fusha, like he's giving khutbah. I want to buy from you a book, right? So the shopkeeper, the Egyptians naturally are just funny people, and they're just comedians naturally. So the shopkeeper made a big deal out of what he said, and he called all the people around, and he said, هذا what did he say? ده بيتكلم كلام ربنا. He said, this man is speaking the speech of our Lord. يعني he's speaking like Qur'an. Okay. And some of them, when he speak to them Fusha, they say, صدق الله العظيم. Like it's Qur'an. Okay. It's like it's Qur'an. That's what they do. So the Egyptians specifically, they like make a joke out of it. Others, they just know you're student Arabic and they put up with you and they will try to speak back to you in Fusha so that you can understand. Especially Saudis are funny people.
How different? Because I would assume that if a person were to go to Saudi, let's say to do Umrah, and they would speak Fusha, they would be okay. But so how different is the dialect of Saudi? Or is it even different per city as well?
Yes, per region is different. For example, you have Al-Gharbiyya wa Sharqiyya. Okay, you have Gharbiyya, which is basically the west of Saudi Arabia. That's Mecca, Medina, Hijaz. Okay, Jeddah. So those places, they have a specific dialect. And then you go to Sharqiyya, which is the east, and they have a different dialect. And you have the Najd dialect, Najdi, which is Riyadh and those places. You have Qasim, etc. And even within themselves, they have a dialect that unites the whole country, okay, which they can understand with, and they have specific regional dialects. And that was the same in the time of the Messenger, ﷺ, that the Arabs, they had different dialects always. To the extent that there's people called Himyar from Yemen, they had a dialect which is every L, they would make it
Okay.
So for example, and this hadith it is said that the Prophet ﷺ, he spoke to them, these people, in their dialect. The Prophet ﷺ, Imam Shafi'i says, لا يحيط بهذه اللغة إلا نبي. There's no one who can encompass this language except a prophet. Okay, meaning all the dialects and everything. And the Prophet ﷺ was like that he was master of the Arabic language, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So it's said that even though there's a weakness in the narration, that he spoke to them in their dialect, the people from Yemen. So it goes like this: ليس من إنبر صيام في سفر. The Prophet said, ليس من إنبر صيام في سفر. So he spoke to them in their dialect, which is in normal Fusha, ليس من البر الصيام في السفر. But he said, ليس من إنبر صيام في سفر. Okay, so he made every L ليس من إنبر instead of من البر.
Okay.
صيام instead of الصيام. Instead of في السفر, he said فيم سفر. Okay, so that's their dialect. And the Arabs, they had all these different dialects until this day. Some of them they have it. For example, and some of the things you have in the Qur'an, you have in dialect. In the qira'at, right? You have different qira'at. You have in the qira'at imala, which is like the air sound. Okay, you have at taqlid, etc. And the Arabs are making a ra, for example, light in some places that, for example, they will say kabireh. Okay, in normal Hafs we say kabira. Okay, kabir. كبيرة, they would say. And in some places in Saudi Arabia, the south of Saudi Arabia, they speak like that. In the Junub, in Abha. And also, for example, if you want to say, what do you want in Arabic, Fusha, we say, ماذا تريد? What do you want? Okay. In Saudi Arabia, they say, in the west, they say, إيش تبغى? إيش تبغى? In the east, they say, وإيش تبي?
SubhanAllah, it's quite different.
It's quite different. But all these words, and in Egypt, they say, what do you want? It's Aizeh. Aizeh. Which means, what do you want? But all these words that they're using, they come from Fusha itself. For example, eyes, it comes from the Arabic word awaz, which means need, haja, which means a need. So they're saying, what do you need? Right? Tabgha, okay? It comes from the word, and it's in the Qur'an, for example, in Surah Kahf, Allah Azza wa Jalla says, what's the verse? But let's use another verse. وَمَنْ يَبْتَغِي غَيْرِ الْإِسْلَامِ دِينًا. Whoever takes and wants other than Islam as a religion, فَلَنْ يُقْبَلَ مِنْهُ. ابتغى. Okay? تبغى. So it comes from that. So it has an origin. These dialects, they have origin from the Arabic language, but it's just the way they use is different. Okay? For example, in Egypt, they say, when they want to say something that belongs to you, they say بتاعك. الكتاب بتاعك. Okay? And بتاعك comes from متاعك, which is your belongings. Okay? So they just change the meme to ba. And in Arabic, the meme and the ba, they come from the same exit point in the mouth. They come from the lips. The lips. So that's quite close. You have example in Khalij, they say حقك, or they say مالك. Okay, which is حقك means حق, it comes from حق, your right. So something you own is something that's rightfully yours. So that's what it comes from. So الكتاب حقك, the book that belongs to you, like that. That's how they use it. So it's just, if you understand the Fusha, that's why it's easy to understand dialects, because it originates from there. So you have the origin and you can understand it. But someone who doesn't understand, someone who doesn't know Fusha, when they learn a dialect and then try to learn Fusha, they get confused. They think, oh, this is so difficult.
So it's better to start
with better, definitely, because the whole reason of learning Arabic is not until dialect. Learn dialect secondary.
Right. You want to understand
the Qur'an, the religion of the Messenger, the speech of the Messenger, Allah's speech, Azza wa Jal, and the books of the scholars, etc.
Yeah.
So learning a dialect is just secondary if you want to communicate with the people, to understand how the Arabs is. And that's not really so important. What's important is the Fusha. Now,
SubhanAllah, I've always wanted to be like one of those, you stand in Taraweeh and you hear people, you stand in Taraweeh and people are crying and you can totally get affected by the Qur'an. And the only way to really do that is to be able to understand the Qur'an and Fusha. Alright, so let's go back to your story. So we kind of went off onto a tangent because we were speaking about the fact that you went to Egypt. So, you started Badr, you started to learn Arabic, and you went to Umrah, you couldn't understand, you couldn't have a conversation in Umrah. Then you went to Egypt, you're a bit better. And then the next time you went to Umrah, you were able to translate for your group. And so let's carry on from that story. So around what age are you now? What are the next steps of you?
So 2 years. That took 2 years basically to learn Arabic to get to that stage. And so after that, it's just a matter of just improving. Alhamdulillah, to the stage that I got, because I was so in love with the Arabic language. I used to read so much about it. I would do a lot of self-study. I would just listen to so many lessons online, just to improve my Arabic, to improve my knowledge generally. And obviously we had our teachers, and our teachers had a big influence on in encouraging us. And if I tell you this, probably you'd be shocked, but I used to be a really shy person. Okay,
that doesn't shock me. You still come across not
probably shy, but I used to be very quiet, very reserved, never used to talk much, and I used to be afraid of speaking Arabic in public.
SubhanAllah.
That's how I used to be. I used to be so shy because I used to be scared of making a mistake. All right.
Okay.
So in classes, you may have seen in Badr, they do debates. So
yes.
Our class, they would do debates, and then my teacher, because my teacher knows that I do so much work at home. Sheikh Mahmoud, Sheikh Mahmoud.
Okay, yeah.
Right, he was my Arabic teacher at the time, because all our teachers, they taught us specific subjects at the time. So we had Sheikh Mahmoud who taught us Arabic, Jazakallah khair, who is still my mentor, one of my mentors. So Sheikh Mahmoud, he would say to me, what's wrong with you? After the class, he would take me to the side and I know you can do so much, because in the debate I barely said anything.
Yes.
You didn't speak, and the whole point of this is to get you speaking, practicing your Arabic. You need to get involved. And I had points prepared and all this stuff but I was just too shy to say. I didn't know how to articulate it. So he said, you need to do better, and he kept encouraging me. And subhanAllah, I think that if he didn't push me and encourage me, I would not get. But bifadlillah, after Allah Azza wa Jal's favors and blessings, then his encouragement and motivating me, then I got where I am now. To the extent that even when I finished, when I graduated from Badr, and then he encouraged me to start teaching. And I never ever thought that I would be able to teach Arabic language. Never ever thought I would even learn Arabic, forget teaching it, right? So I started teaching, and he told me, you can do it. You got it in you. And he would just give me advice, and he would guide me through it, and then subhanAllah, and then we just kept going, and now it's been almost 6 years of teaching.
SubhanAllah. You've been teaching for 6 years?
Almost 6 years now. Imagine, I've been a teacher for 6 years, and honestly, I've learned, if Allah, may Allah Azza wa Jalla reward him, I have learned a lot more teaching than when I was a student.
They say that, don't they? There's a saying that says if you want to, they say the best way to learn is to teach.
Yeah, and the only way you can test that if you really know your subject is that if you can teach it. And the ulama, they say about ilm, يزيد بكثرة الإنفاق منه وينقص إن به كف شدتها. It increases the more you give it out, your knowledge, and if you hold it back, then it decreases. So the more you teach it, the more you learn. And one of the examples of that is because you're always revising by teaching over and over again the same subjects, you're learning new things from it, you're discovering things that you didn't know when you're studying, because students, they give you a different perspective. Students ask questions that you probably never thought of when you were a student. So for you to think of an answer, you have to understand first from their perspective and think of an answer, and that really gets you thinking. And I think, wow, I never thought of it like this. And I've had that many occasions, and I thought, wow, I'm learning new things as well, even though I'm giving you the answer, but I would have never thought of this answer if I was never asked this question. Right, so it's a learning experience, and I've learned a lot more in those 6 years than when I was probably a student. Allahu Akbar. And that's just Arabic, and yeah, that's a short story. Sure.
I aspire to one day be a teacher at Badr, inshallah. And then
you will be.
My first thing, the first thing I will teach my students will be everybody say هل أنت جوعان. That's the first thing I learned.
That's the only sentence you say to me constantly. هل أنت جوعان? Are you hungry?
I asked Sheikh Mahmoud as well.
He laughed at you.
I said هل أنت جوعان?
What did he say?
He just laughed.
Yeah, mashallah.
Actually, he told me that he wasn't. Then he started having a conversation with me in Arabic, and I was lost.
He actually thought you were serious. I was there.
Yeah, I know.
I was there. He actually thought you were serious.
Because it was relevant at that point.
Yeah, we were eating. He said, هل أنت جوعان? Are you hungry?
I have no idea what to say after that. If what person responds, if person responds, I'm like, oh, okay. I don't even know. Yeah, subhanallah. Ustad Yahya, it has been amazing to have you on Freshly Grounded. Jazakallah khair. Well, we have this policy on Freshly Grounded that once a person comes on once, it's an open door policy. We would love to have you on again. There's so many other topics that we could discuss. I did want this episode to be focused heavily on the Qur'an for a lot of reasons. Obviously, Ramadan, the month of the Qur'an, is coming up. And so this is good prep. Originally I wanted to have you on in Ramadan, but I think this is good to have you on just before Ramadan for people to prep and to understand the seriousness of the Qur'an. And I wanted to talk about the why it's important to learn, to read, to learn the Qur'an, to read the language of the Qur'an, to be able to speak the language of the Qur'an, and to be able to ponder on it. And the other thing we spoke about was memorizing it. So because one thing that we have on Freshly Grounded, Sam and I, we say a lot is that we want to be able to provide value to people. We want to be able to provide two things: entertainment and value. And you can't do too much entertainment. And if you just simply do a value all the time, then maybe you wouldn't get the listeners because they
boring.
It might be a bit boring. So there's episodes where Sam and I discuss and we're entertaining and we're doing current events of Red and we're having a good time, and I think that people really do love those episodes. But likewise, people love the episodes where we bring value, and Sam and I might not be able to bring, like for example, we don't have the knowledge of the Quran to bring value, to bring that to the listeners. So what we do is we bring people in who do have
you bring a lot of value.
So exactly. and likewise we will bring people, like for example when we bring someone like Hamza Zotis, we don't have knowledge of science to be able to, but we can bring him on to speak about it. So we love bringing on people, especially people who have knowledge in their fields, because a lot of advice that we get and a lot of advice that you hear people say, and a lot of advice that Yusha Evans constantly draws in on us is stay in your lane, stay in your lane, stay in your lane. And so that's why we think it's beautiful to be able to bring people in who are in their lane to bring knowledge in their lane. So for example, another piece of advice that Ustad Yusha was saying is, he was saying that when you hear me speak, you often hear me speak about matters of the heart or Christianity, because the two things that I'm knowledgeable. I know about the Christianity because I was a Christian. I came from Christianity and I studied it. And matters of the heart, they're the two things that you hear me speak about. And that's him staying in his lane. So, when we want to speak about Christianity, we'll bring on Yusha Evans. We want to speak about science, we'll bring on Hamza Zossis. We want to, and inshallah, we'll be blessed with more and more people. And so that's why I wanted to focus on the Qur'an this time a lot. But next time, inshallah, you'll meet Abdul Samad. You haven't met him, have you?
I haven't met him.
I'll
be honoured to meet him, inshallah.
Inshallah.
I'll be honoured. On that point, actually, the Messenger alayhi salatu salam, even though I don't believe that what I spoke about now, Arabic and the Qur'an, is really my lane, it's way beyond me. But we try to mention whatever little we know. But the Messenger alayhi salatu salam, with the Sahaba, he would, sallallahu alayhi wasallam, he would mention what they know best. And he would say, for example, أعلمكم في الحلال والحرام معاذ بن جبل. The most knowledgeable amongst you in what's halal, what's permissible, and what's not lawful. It's Mu'adh bin Jabal radiallahu anhu. And he would say, for instance, خذ القرآن من أربعة. Take the Qur'an from 4 people. And he would mention that because they knew the Qur'an the best. And he mentioned by name Ubay ibn Ka'ab, Abdullah ibn Mas'ud, etc. The 4 Sahaba that he mentioned, Salim Mawla Abi Hudayfa, etc. That take the Qur'an from them because they know the Qur'an. He would say, whoever wants to recite the Qur'an exactly the way it was revealed, then take it from Abdullah ibn Mas'ud, Ibn Abd, he would say, sallallahu alayhi wasallam. So he would teach that takhassus, specializing in something, or focusing on something. It is something good. As long as he says, alayhi salatu salam, Inna Allah yuhibbu idha amila ahadukum amalan an yutqinah. That Allah Azza wa Jalla, He loves that when one of you does an action, a deed, that he perfects it, that he does it to his best. And the Messenger alayhi salatu salam, he says, أحب الأعمال إلى الله أدومها وإن قل. The most beloved deeds to Allah Azza wa Jalla are the most consistent, even if they're small. And upon that point, I know a man, every single morning after Salat al-Fajr, he goes to Tesco's, the local Tesco's, he buys bread. And then he goes out and he distributes the bread amongst the birds. He does it every single morning without fail. And you may think that's like, he just gives bread to birds, right? But that could be the reason why he attains Jannah. SubhanAllah. Right, so you were mentioning the other day that the story of the Imam Hamza, okay, the Qari al-Kabir, Hamza Zayyat, rahimahullah Azza wa Jal, that he was a Qari from the Qurra al-Ashr, from the 10 Qurra, that he taught Qur'an so many years, etc. And then someone saw him in his dream, and he said to him, he saw him in Jannah, and he asked him, how did you get there? And he said, Allah Azza wa Jalla, He granted me this because of 2 rak'ahs صليتها في جوف الليل. I prayed it in the darkest part of the night. So that one deed that you do, it could be the reason that Allah Azza wa Jalla, He grants you Jannah, that Allah Azza wa Jalla, He has mercy upon you with His rahmah, that you grant Jannah. So takhassus, focusing on something, is not always something that is bad, but sometimes it's something that's praiseworthy. And focus is required, especially as a Muslim, that your mind is focused on something and you have a goal, a mission in life. And every single Muslim should have a mission that they make a difference. They want to add value, like you said, to other people's lives and to their life. Because you ultimately helping others is you helping yourself. Because the Messenger alayhi salatu salam, he teaches us, he said, أَحَبُّ النَّاسِ إِلَى اللَّهِ أَنْفَعُهُمْ لِلنَّاسِ. The most beloved people to Allah Azza wa Jal are the most beneficial to others. And he says, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, وَلَا إِنْ أَمْشِيَ مَا أَخِي فِي حَاجَتِهِ. And that I walk with my brother in his time of need, that he needs me to help him something, and I help him fulfill that need. It is better than me performing i'tikaf in a masjid shahran. Masjid Nabawi, which is 1 salah, is equivalent to 1,000 salahs elsewhere. Imagine you are there for 1 whole month, you're praying 5 daily prayers there, you're praying voluntary prayers there, you're praying, you're reciting Qur'an there, you're doing adhkar there, etc. All these ibadah you're doing in the Masjid Nabawi, because this place, it has virtues, right? The reward is multiplied. So imagine all that reward you could have got in that month. You helping your brother in his time of need is better than that, and shows you the reward is greater. So being beneficial to others is what Islam is about. That all the Muslims are like this. And he actually put his hands together like this, alayhi salatu salam. He said, Al-mu'minu lil-mu'mini kal-bunyan yashuddu ba'duhu ba'da. That the believer to another believer is like a building, bricks, that strengthen one another, and he puts his hands together like that way, like this, alayhi salatu salam. So that's how it is. So yes, it's very important. And what you guys are doing on here, it is exactly doing that. Benefiting others, helping them with their lives. And that's the mission of the Messenger alayhi salatu salam. Starting with Tawheed, save them from the hellfire, right? And then helping that person mold his life to be a believer that obeys Allah Azza wa Jal, and also he is successful in his dunya, in whatever he's doing he's successful, and his akhirah, that Allah Azza wa Jal says وَلَا تَنْسَ نَصِيبَكَ مِنَ الدُّنْيَا وَأَحْسِنْ كَمَا أَحْسَنَ اللَّهُ إِلَيْكَ, and don't forget your portion of this dunya, meaning that whatever you've been given from the dunya, make sure you do it well. And Allah Azza wa Jal says وَأَحْسِنْ, ihsan, and be someone who does ihsan, be good to others, perfect what you're doing. كَمَا أَحْسَنَ اللَّهُ إِلَيْكَ, just like Allah has been kind to you, be kind to others. Just like Allah has perfected you, perfect what you're doing. Just like Allah Azza wa Jal has granted you all of this, try to help others and try to support others, etc. Now, so that's how the believer, the Muslim should be.
Jazakallah khair, Ustad. Lastly, if a person is intrigued, they've listened to this podcast and they have decided, you know what, I'm going to make the intention to learn the Arabic language, to read Qur'an, to understand the Qur'an, to memorize, they can do so at Badr, which is the institute that you teach at, the academy that you teach at, can't they? And you guys have different levels. So if a person, for example, literally wants to learn from Alif Bata, they can join the foundation. If they already can read Qur'an very well, or if they've already started memorizing, there's levels for that. If they even can already speak Arabic, there's levels for that. So there's a level for every type of person. And how can a person get in touch with you or with Badr to inquire about the courses that you have, etc.?
Okay, basically in Badr we have 4 levels, right? So you could say 5 if we add the foundation as well. So the foundation is basically 2 months, and that's for someone who's starting from scratch, where you're learning how to read and write and etc. And then after you learn that, then you go to level 1, and the level 1 is basically it teaches you. It's basically 1 academic year, and it teaches you. It's 2 terms. It teaches you for the first term, focus on comprehension, understanding Arabic. So after those 4 months, the expectation is that you're able to understand Arabic to an extent, you're able to read it, write it, etc. Very well as well, that your reading from foundation and writing has improved over that 4 months as well, and that your understanding Arabic has improved as well. So that's the focus. And then the second term, it focuses more on speaking Arabic. So you have sessions in class where it's dedicated to speaking, debates. They would do presentations, they would do hot seats, etc. to practice their speaking. And after those 8 months, that academic year, the expectation that the student is able to speak Arabic to an extent, understand it, he knows some grammar, he knows some meaning of certain surahs in the Qur'an, because you have certain chapters in the Qur'an you learn the meaning of, and he's able to express himself in Arabic to an extent, read and write, etc. Because all of that is preparation for level 2. Level 2, it is basically the stage where everything's in Arabic. There's no more English. As soon as you walk into the building, the teachers only speak Arabic and the students only speak Arabic. And many people think, oh, that's a major step to take. The reason why we do that is because many people, they say, I can't learn Arabic unless I go to an Arab country, right? So we tell them, we'll create that environment for you, whereas you're in an environment where you're practicing Arabic, you're speaking to teachers, and we're quite strict on that to the extent that if someone wants to ask a teacher, can I go to the toilet, he has to ask in Arabic, or he sits and he suffers. Right, so, and then level 2 obviously gets more intense. It's another academic year, and it gets more intense where you're improving your Arabic, your speaking, etc., and your writing, your understanding, your grammar, and you have more subjects that are added. I won't mention all of them because there's quite a lot. And then at the end of level 2, the expectation is after that academic year that you're able to speak Arabic very well, and you're able to understand it very well, and you're able to read it and write it very well, and that you know grammar and you know some morphology, etc., sarf and nahu. And then you also achieve a qualification, a diploma at the end of level 2. So after that, when at the end of level 2, you're at a good stage. Your Arabic is good, okay? So now it's just a matter of just improving it. So level 3 and 4 are basically polishing up your Arabic and learning Arabic in depth. So you learn stuff like literature, adab, balagha, rhetoric. You learn grammar and morphology in depth. So nahu wa sarf. You learn Tariq al-Islami, Islamic history. You learn authorship, so you'll be able to author your own book in Arabic if you wanted to. You learn the skills to even teach Arabic to others, because now we want you to be able to pass on this message of what you learn. So you learn teaching skills as well. And you've seen some of the level 3s, they come into the morning classes and they assist, right? Because they're at that stage where they assist in classes, they help support others, because they've gone through that journey, so they help others go through that journey as well. So it's basically is that. So all those 4 levels are available for all different levels. It's just a matter of person having, and it's easy really. Arabic is not hard.
And am I right in thinking that it's on for brothers it's on Saturdays?
Yeah, and this is only 5 hours a week.
Yeah, 5 hours. So it's one day a week, which
Yeah.
and it's the one day which is 5 hours.
Yeah.
And so brothers is Saturday, and then sisters is Sundays.
Sundays, yeah.
And there's morning classes and there's evening classes.
Evening class. So for the brothers, it's a morning shift, 10 a.m.
Okay.
to 3 p.m.
Okay.
And there's the evening shift, is 4 p.m. to 9 p.m. So just 5 hours. And in those 5 hours, you do it's intensive. And obviously, there's work that's required for you to do outside the class, depending which level you are. When it's really the foundation and the level 1, it's not so much work you need to do outside class. You should know, right? But when it's level 2 and the level 3 and so on, so you have to do a bit more dedicated. And by then, it's easier. It gets easier because you're at that stage where you're comfortable.
Yeah.
Right, your Arabic is better now, and you're comfortable. It's not so much of a struggle. So it's just that first obstacle you just get past, whereas it's only the beginning where you may find some difficulty. After that, you're like, Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah.
Yeah, and you see some of the examples in level 3 classes and so on,
Yeah.
that they started 0. Okay, and some of them, when I look at them, I just remember myself, subhanAllah. When you remember the trip we recently had, and they presented the level 3 class, they presented their presentation. I hadn't seen it before. I didn't know what they were going to mention. I didn't know what they were going to say. It was the first time I ever saw it. So they all spoke, and they spoke very well. After 2 years of studying, they spoke very well. And on top of that, I was so shocked that I think a tear just came out.
Really?
I was so shocked.
Oh.
I was thinking, subhanAllah, these people, they work so hard. They put so much effort into it, and they got so far. I never thought that. MashaAllah. May Allah bless them. And so if anyone is interested in that, they are more than welcome. Inshallah, our doors are open.
How did they contact you?
Best way they contacted me. Well, we have the Badr email, and I have my personal email. You can send it to my Instagram. You can message me Instagram if you like. Yahya Raaby. So it's at Yahya Raaby. Literally.
Like YAHYA
RAABY. Yeah, so that's.
Or Yahya Raaby.
Yahya Raaby.
Asad, Jazakallah khair. Thank you so much for jumping on the podcast.
May Allah bless you.
Inshallah, like I said, you're welcome.
Jazakallah
Assalamu
khair.
alaikum.
Allah yahfadak. May Allah bless you. Jazakallah khair for having me. I'm honored. Allah bless.